Previously on The Crossover.
You had a cat named Old Roy?
Just
That's a dog's name.
Roy is a dog name.
Yeah, if I said, come over here, Roy, and I was like, I'd be like, what are you doing? That's not your name. Zach says, John Bishop here for naming his cat Fido. Did you name your cat Fido, John, even though it's a dog's name?
No, dogs squat on Fido, but no one squatted on Roy.
Dogs are squatting on Roy.
No.
Roy is not a dog name.
Roy is a dog name.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley. The Connor Happer Show. Unsportsmanlike conduct. 6A to 6P. 1620. The Zone. $16.20 The Zone. Traffic. Here's today's Husker Max Practice Report, brought to you by Tickets for Less on 1180 and 1620 The Zone.
One troubling takeaway from Friday's overtime loss to Illinois, the success of the Fighting Illini run game, particularly in the second half. After being held to just 37 yards on 13 carries in the first two quarters, Illinois averaged just under 5 yards a carry while running for 129 yards on 26 attempts in the third and fourth quarter and overtime. Coach Matt Rule says the Blackshirts need to do a better job shedding blocks to stop opposing running backs.
I mean, we predicted it. We told, hey guys, we're going to come out, they're going to go tempo, no huddle, they're going to run RPO it. Looks like when it happened, they were, we really settled in. They adjusted as the game went on, and they found more runs. They ran some crack tosses, they ran some different things, and really at the end of the day, we just didn't get off blocks, and we didn't win third down.
With this Husker Max Practice Report, I'm Nate Rohr.
The Husker Max Practice Report, brought to you by Tickets for Less on 1180 and 1620 The Zone.
Husker fans, after the exciting Colorado showdown, there's more in store. The Huskers are heading into two more big games, including the Big Ten home opener that you won't want to miss. Tickets for Less is your best source for securing the most affordable tickets to all these action-packed games with no service fees. Use promo code THEZONE at checkout to save big and lock in your seats for the next game for Husker football. Visit ticketsforless.com. Use promo code THEZONE and get ready for an unforgettable season.
Car repair is car repair. Most places you go can change your oil or fix your brakes. The difference is the experience you'll get at Omaha Car Care. We're part of the community. We were born here, and we believe that our relationship with you should be built to last. We're going to consult you, not sell you. We're going to give you a free loaner car. We're going to treat you like a valued friend that we want to continue to see in the years to come. I'm Rick Betker, owner of Omaha Car Care, and we'll be along for the ride.
We care, we listen, we're here 24/7. The Nebraska 211 helpline can connect you with the resources you need today. Call 211, text 898-211, or visit ne211.org if you're in need of housing and utilities assistance, transportation, food, healthcare, a safe path out of abuse, and more. 24/7 Nebraska 211 is here for you.
Here's the snap, back to the ground. Eckler squeezes through a hole to the 20, 15-10, race to the end zone, touchdown! Touchdown Washington! Austin Eckler! B-Rob gets a handoff right up the middle. No, Daniels keeps it, scoots into the end zone! Touchdown! Touchdown Washington! Jaden Daniels again! Jade loads one up for McLaurin in the end zone! Did he catch it? He did! Touchdown! Touchdown, Washington! Unreal!
This is snap. Back to pass, looking left, has time. Pressure coming. Now rolls out to the right, looking for an open receiver. He's got Kincaid caught in the back of the end zone for a 6-yard touchdown reception. Here's the snap. Takes the handoff to Cook. Pressure coming. Fires down the right side, looking for Coleman. He's got it, and he's into the end zone. The rookie with his first touchdown as a pro. Snap by Ferguson, hold by Martin, and the kick by Bass is up, and it is good.
Live from 50th and Capitol Avenue in the Big O. This is Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone, 1620thezone.com, and 1620 The Zone TV. Now here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy.
I just got 3 things to say. God bless our troops. God bless America. And gentlemen, start your
Happy 121st day for all who celebrate and know what I'm talking about. This could be a very, very special day for you if you root for a baseball team on the south side of Chicago.
Make history. Just make history.
We can celebrate as a nation.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome in on a Tuesday. Going up on a Tuesday, a day closer to Nebraska and Purdue on the Peacock, where there could potentially be aftermaths of the Hurricane Helene could find their way into West Lafayette on Saturday.
And that's kind of rare when you get hurricane-type weather making its way into Indiana, of all places, too. No?
I don't think so.
No.
It's
We
not.
can look at some historical
it's
maps.
enough, but isn't it?
We've there's been 1 or 2 times since I've lived here in Nebraska, we've been impacted by remnants of a hurricane.
They make for interesting football games.
I know we've had an earthquake before, so why not?
Yeah. So when a hurricane makes landfall, if it's still, it's not rolling through West Lafayette as a hurricane.
We're not getting 100 mile an hour winds.
Of the thunderstorms,
some rain,
heavy rain. Yeah,
good day to run the ball.
Doesn't that just sound like West Lafayette weather, though? I mean, for what you would expect in this game, gloomy, rainy,
42.
Every game in West Lafayette should be played at 11 a.m. and there should be no sun.
Yeah.
The only sun should be Zach Eady, and he's tall enough to tell you if it's sunny up there or not. All right, welcome in, everybody. There's Jimmy and Nick. I'm Gary. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley. In the morning, I have to ask this question after watching the double dip of Monday Night Football last night. One game, thankfully, maybe they do staggered Monday night games.
Yeah.
Because if one is just a bad game,
yes,
you're more than likely the other game's going to be entertaining. Maybe that's why they do it. I got thoughts on the staggered Monday Night Football game, but I have to ask you,
Bengals are 0-3.
As the Bears fan of the show.
Oh, would you like to ask him about Cliff Kingsbury?
No.
Oh, okay.
He actually
excellent college quarterback.
You know what? He may have found the right combination of a head coach and a quarterback. But would you like to reassess the draft? 3 weeks into the NFL season with 2 rookie quarterbacks who you have one who probably is more on his back than he is on his feet, and then one last night who our bar is so low for rookie quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Like Daniels was just Daniels and was making plays against a very bad defense.
Yeah.
And we like lose our mind that Jaden Daniels is the second coming. And I thought he was good to begin with. So it's not like this is revisionist history. But would you like to have revisionist history? You representing all the Bears fans out there. And would you like to go back to draft night in April about which quarterback you selected?
Yeah, right now, yes. Because first of all, just the dimes he was dropping last night. But the athleticism, when you don't have a good offensive line like Chicago does not, you need a guy that can do a little bit of that Jaden Daniels can. There's a lot from last night that I really put back on the Bears organization between quarterback play. And then, yes, because Cliff Kingsbury did interview for the Chicago Bears job and obviously didn't get it. Shane Waldron was he was the better selection, apparently. And somehow the offense has gotten worse.
Oh, you got a high school offensive coordinator that is in charge of the Bears offense.
Hey, that's being mean to high school offensive coordinators. Come on.
Well, I've seen some bad high school offense this year. I can tell you, I'm being kind.
Okay. Fair enough.
But like, you play on that stage, and Monday Night Football is great, and he makes a statement. And I'm happy for the smattering of Commander fans that I know that have long wanted the next RG3.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins. I mean, you could rattle off, if you want to play dudes just naming random Washington quarterbacks, you could go on and on and on.
Shout out Kerry Conklin.
So
Jay Schrader.
Gus Frerotte. Mark Rippon. He wasn't really
Schuler.
random, but
yeah.
Super Bowl MVP.
Heath Schuler, yes.
Doug Williams.
Heineke.
Yes, Taylor Heineke during the COVID season. Who could forget?
I'm sure Chase Daniel took a snap or two for the Washington football team.
He had to have.
Who hasn't?
But, like you're on that stage and you make a statement
Colt
last
McCoy.
night and you're out there dealing. He does benefit. Like, it is the right scenario. Again, I like Daniels more than Williams. You can go back and check the tape. That having a good offensive line with a rookie quarterback goes a long way.
Yeah.
Here, I'm gonna be Mr. Football Guy on the show today. If you have a good offensive line, there's a lot of things you can do.
That's deep, man.
I
never thought of it that way.
Because sometimes when a bad quarterback is really bad, a good offensive line can mask some things.
Yeah.
And then you're Trevor Lawrence. But last night with Washington and Daniels, they have a really good offensive line. They have an OC that is smart, and you have a quarterback who, one thing he does that some of the other rookie quarterbacks and even like a Kyler Murray, they take bad sacks. The thing about Daniels is that 6-yard sack doesn't turn into a 15-yard sack.
And Caleb has now done that twice in 2 weeks. Yes, Kyler Murray. Is a good example of that especially when he was getting his feet wet. That's a good point. As far as what Jaden Daniels did very well yesterday, which was a lot of good things, that's fair, especially with guys that have that type of athleticism where you think you can go one direction, then you can run on the other side of the field and get around them, forgetting that speed in college, you could get away with that speed of the NFL, that's going to result in a 20-yard loss. Yeah, that's a fair point. Little things like that, sure.
And here's and it was fun to watch Daniels last night because they beat the Bengals. All right, and the Bengals will never shut up.
No.
Okay.
And Cam Taylor-Britt is right there front and center.
They have the Super Bowl hangover. But what's going to get Zach Taylor fired? And Zach Taylor ain't going to last.
Not winning.
Okay. Only 4 teams since 90 have started 0-3 and made the playoffs. That team might be 4-5 after 9 weeks. They're not making the playoffs. And it's not Burrow. It's not Cam Taylor-Britt smacking the gums. Their defense is atrocious.
Yep.
Their defense is god awful that a rookie quarterback could dice them up like that. That's 2 straight weeks that the Bengals have given up a touchdown to a fat guy.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm no Dick Duran, but when you allow back-to-back weeks where a fat guy catches a touchdown, you might have a problem on defense. So it's not Burrow and whatever is going on there with the locks. It is they have a really, really bad defense that there are holes everywhere that are in it. So let's say let's give some backing to my guy CTB. When he says it's just a college offense, bro, that college offense just diced up an NFL defense. You got issues on that side of the ball. It's going to cost you a playoff appearance. It's going to cost you the head coach who can't last. Zach Taylor is not going to last in
Right.
Cincinnati. But man, that's a bad defense that got diced up by Jaden Daniels, who was in one last night. But the person that I was most excited for, and I watched a little bit of the week before, and this is the change in the NFL, like week to week. Like the week before, they get in the red zone and they couldn't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Now, 2 straight weeks they haven't punted or turned the ball over, and that's impressive.
Yep.
And their 5 scoring drives last night were 44 plays, 310 yards. Again, bad defense.
Mm-hmm.
Man,
Pass defense.
I am so excited that this guy finally has a quarterback, Terry McLaurin.
Yep.
For all you fantasy owners out there, I'm happy for him because he's a cool dude who has played with Tom, Dick, and Harry, and Harry and Dick don't know how to hold a ball. Okay, and now all of a sudden he's got a quarterback that can throw deep, and he's a great tracker of deep balls.
Yep,
I'm happy for him. Most importantly, on the morning after what happened last night.
Yeah, that's a connection. I mean, that's from what you've seen now throughout the season, but especially last night on display. That was a major connection because he can get behind anybody. And you're right. Do you have a guy that can actually get the football there? And between his speed and what Jaden Daniels, this is going to be the interesting thing to see about Jaden Daniels going forward, is that last touchdown pass that he had to McLaurin, the hit that he took and just dropped it in that corner there was about as good of that's as good of a touchdown pass you're going to see even from the veterans this year, let alone a rookie. Is that what you can expect from Jaden Daniels? Because when you do have a guy that can stretch a defense like that and is going to be a matchup nightmare, Jaden Daniels obviously has got the arm strength to get there, but that accuracy last night, that was impressive. I mean, that was, you asked about, do you have a little bit of buyer's remorse?
Go ahead.
That was my biggest concern, though. If Jaden Daniels was number 1 on Chicago's board, what would the accuracy look like? What would all of those things that are going to be extremely important in the first couple of years of development in the NFL of adjusting to that speed? And I will say personally, I thought it seemed like Caleb Williams was more of a pro-ready quarterback. And that's not just because of the pundits. If you'd watch a USC game, the last couple of years, you would see those pro throws by Caleb Williams. You didn't see it as much from Jaden Daniels because they didn't really need him to make those types of throws. Now I watch that, just watching that last night, whether it's a good defense or a bad defense, and that is a bad pass defense, you're absolutely right, is he can make those throws, but he also, like the Caleb Williams part of it, is it just seems like he is almost overthinking it in his own head. Jaden Daniels goes out and plays.
Well, you know this. I mean, a little bit of, when you're a rookie quarterback and the game has sped up and you're running for your life, that does not help. That's why like last night was those 2 games, watching them with 4 quarterbacks, and you're like, okay, which guy is a dude?
Yeah.
Which guy is a doo-doo on an upper level with a really good team against a bad team? What does he do? Does he dice him up or does he struggle? And then what is a bad quarterback that had to be paid behind a bad offensive line look like?
Yeah.
I mean, all of those things last night.
Mm-hmm.
Like Josh Allen, when the Bills play bad teams, they blow them out.
Yep.
Like the Chiefs don't ever really blow anybody out because the league is rigged towards them and they got to keep it close so people watch the games.
All about the ratings.
25 million people watched the Atlanta-Kansas City game on Sunday night. Where, by the way, the NFL is rigging this weekend because look at all the Chargers that are going to be out for that game.
It's like an all-pro team.
Yeah, I can't help it.
Can't wait for my Sunday plan.
But
it's like an all-pro team.
When the Bills play an inferior team, especially in Buffalo, they put the hammer down.
Yep.
And that's what they did last night. Jacksonville is bad. Trevor Lawrence. We need in the quarterback world, we need to have a discussion about Trevor Lawrence because Trevor Lawrence got paid, and I'm not sure what he got paid off of, but all of a sudden, Trevor Lawrence, when there is a clean pocket, can't complete a pass.
Mm-hmm.
He's lost 8 straight games, and his now career QBR is lower than Daniel Jones. And we already know what we feel about Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence's completion percentage this year in 3 games is 52%.
Right.
And then you look at the 2 quarterbacks that played in the later game, where we just talked about Daniels. Burrow was okay. I don't know. I think there's a multitude of things that are going on in Cincinnati flapping their gums, and I think they still have a Super Bowl hangover, and that's what going on 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
But it goes back to that position. The most important position in sports is such a crapshoot because if you are the first overall pick at quarterback since 2019,
mm-hmm.
you're 2-12 to begin the year.
Yeah.
Kyler Murray and Caleb Williams are the only two guys that have won.
Yeah.
It's a major crapshoot that you're forced to pay for, and you hope that it's a wise investment. Or if you're Jacksonville, you hope that people are more excited about seeing more wrestling promos in your draft room than whatever the hell you're going to do as a football program.
Well, and for context of Caleb Williams adding to that number of 2 with Kyler Murray, think about Caleb Williams' game against Tennessee. They didn't win that game because of Caleb Williams.
Yeah,
they won that game on the defensive special team. Sure, and that's the whole part of. I mean, you can bring this back to Nebraska as well. When why is
it always got to be about Nebraska?
And it's got to be about 15, but it is how you support that guy. If you're starting a true freshman that does not have that experience, how are you supporting him? And I was blinded by the fact that I felt. And I'm off of this guy now because I thought, oh, there's this nastiness. Tevin Jenkins, I thought, damn, he's got that edge to him. He's, he was kind of a bad boy at Oklahoma State. You need a little bit of that on the offensive line. Anytime his quarterback gets knocked down, like he's the first one to get in between and get in another guy's face. And you got to have a little bit of that. Darnell Wright, all those guys, like there's a belief that I had that as long as those guys were healthy, and you're putting not like they did in Justin Fields, where essentially Darnell Mooney, who, by the way, doing good things for Atlanta, is a nice complimentary receiver, but is not your number one like Justin Fields had to rely on, that you are putting that person right out of the gate in a much better position to succeed. And you're right. It has to start with the offensive line because you could be throwing to Willie Gault. There you go.
Wow.
Yeah.
I thought you'd go Dennis McKinnon.
I was about to say Dennis McKinnon and Willie Gault, best 1-2 combination ever. I mean, some people would say Alshon Jeffrey, Brandon Marshall.
Whoa. That's a
regular swan and stalwart.
That's a bold statement. Yeah.
Best 1-2 combination ever in Chicago.
Irvin and Harper.
Hey, now you just couched yourself in Chicago.
I didn't say that? Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I thought
All
I
right.
said,
Carry on, my wayward son.
I said that in my head. But when I thought, okay, they got Keenan Allen, great veteran guy to have there. You've got DJ Moore, who I love, and then Rome Odunze, who I still think is going to be fantastic. It was easy to think if that offensive line is healthy, they're keeping him upright. Man, he's got some guys to throw to. Then you get DeAndre Swift in the backfield, so you got a nice little reliable running back. And Khalil Herbert is a nice secondary guy as well. You've got all of those things. It just seems like, man, they put Caleb Williams in a really good situation. And now you watch that offensive line, even as healthy as they've been, they're bad. I mean, it's really bad. And so for Caleb Williams, that exacerbates the whole learning curve of a rookie quarterback, just like a freshman quarterback. When we talked about how is Nebraska supporting Dylan Raiola? What do they have in front of him? What do they have around him? Are you investing around him as opposed to, all right, man, just go out and win us some games and then we'll figure it out as we go? I feel like that's kind of where Chicago is right now, where it's like, okay, we got some guys you can throw to, but this whole offensive line thing, we'll figure this out as we go.
Does it seem like there's more bad quarterback play in college in the NFL than there is good?
Mm-hmm.
And when you have somebody,
it stands out.
You go,
yep,
we at least accomplished that. Or if you don't have somebody, you better hope something else of your game is pretty good. Use Iowa as an example.
Yep.
Cade McNamara and the forward pass,
not their strength,
but
Caleb Johnson is.
But they have a great running back.
And their offensive line's playing better.
Who they're able to run on first down with great success.
Mm-hmm.
And so then the quarterback can kind of be just there. I don't know. Our bar, I think, has been lowered for what we think is good quarterback play.
Well, and especially in the Big Ten.
Well, but I've never thought about, except for Purdue, which, did you get their email yesterday? Whenever they talk about their quarterbacks, it is the cradle of quarterbacks. So they were there. So there's a paragraph in the release I got yesterday about Hudson Card. And they said from the school that is the cradle of quarterbacks, Hudson Card in the last 2 weeks has been blah, 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 7 of 17, 56 yards against Oregon State. I'm like,
they're still living off that Kyle Orton train, huh? I guess there was Drew Brees too.
Pride of Southeast Polk, Kyle Orton.
Yes. Who my brother-in-law, by the way. I'll show you a picture of him.
But I
Looks
think
exactly like him.
I don't when I look at the Big Ten, though, I don't say, oh, that's a quarterback league.
No.
There's a couple of schools that have had exceptional quarterbacks, and
Mhm.
Northwestern has really kind of raised the bar of guys that go to the NFL and start.
Whatever happened to Kane Coulter? Is Trevor Siemian still on a roster right now?
I'm sure he is. Is he on the dudes naming former Washington quarterbacks?
Hell, he actually.
Trevor Siemian ever played in Washington?
That's a great question. I feel like he probably did. He was probably at least at camp at one point. Who was the guy? It was who split with Coulter? Was it Siemian? Remember when they had the 2 quarterback system?
Yeah.
Was it Siemian and Coulter?
11.
Okay.
I mean, Mike Kafka was great on the Chiefs staff, and I think is he Dable's OC?
Yes,
he left Kansas City.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Mike
Doug
Kafka.
Peterson will be an offensive analyst with Kansas City before long.
Yeah. Where
Be
would Brandon
back in
Sullivan
KC.
be? What about Ryan Helinski? Is he in the league?
Peyton Nelson.
Oh, I'm trying. Who is the quarterback for the Rose Bowl team? The Darnell Autry team.
I don't
Steve
think
Schnurr.
Schnurr, there you go. Yes.
Oh, of
Schnurr,
course it
yeah.
was.
It was Steve Schnurr.
I don't know. I didn't pay attention to Northwestern until they joined the Big Ten.
To be fair, in
were
1995,
in the
your
Big
attention was somewhere else.
According to
mean when
Nebraska,
NU
according to Nebraska outlets, the Big Ten started when Nebraska joined.
That's yeah. What the hell? Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it'd be great. They'll hold the Big Ten basketball tournament in the NHL arena. All right. Here is the lineup for the show. Sam
you have
McKeown's
to.
going to join us at 7:30. Brian Christopherson is in at 9. We'll react to some of the things that Matt Rule said yesterday. I know Nebraska lost to Illinois. Okay, and that's a disappointing loss in a game that you could have, would have, and should have won against a team that wanted to win that football game. But man, is it really that bad around here that a local TV station on their morning show is sending a stray Nebraska's way?
I know.
So we're watching Channel 6 here, and they got they had a Nebraska football segment, and they have a super of inconsistent kicking game. And all they show is Tommy Hill walking off the field in street clothes.
Oh, yeah. The guy's got plantar fasciitis. Of course, he can't kick the ball.
I'm like, what do they think he is? Justin Reed of the Chiefs that just fills in when your kicker goes down? I mean, Tommy Hill, it's bad enough that he gave a touchdown early and he got injured and he's day-to-day this week.
Yeah.
But I don't know
Brett Maher's helping him.
I have to go back and look at the tape. But I don't think Tommy Hill missed a 39-yard field goal.
I'm pretty sure it wasn't him.
I mean, I think you would have known if a guy just walked onto the field in street clothes to kick a field goal. You would have thought, hey, the guy is confused. The FNBO kicking contest happened 3 quarters ago.
Yep. He won the contest. He was a little late getting to his seat.
Yeah. There was a Papa that was still very disappointed yesterday in body language and comments he made.
You know, he said something, though, and we can get to this later.
Said a couple of things, Nick.
He did. He did say something that, as I'm listening and still kind of making sense of what happened and what we think of this team going forward, this is where I think Matt Rule usually hits the, whether you want to call it the positive note or just the real note. I think it's probably the latter, the real note, the reality check of where we haven't used the year 1, year 2, year 3 part of it, when he used the year 2 part of it as an example of, sometimes these things happen in year 2 when you have it rolling and then you're exposed to something. I don't want to make it sound like, oh, okay, that's better. But it does put a lot of the things in that momentum that you get off to a 3-0 start, and all of a sudden where we want to put this team and think about the ceiling of this team, of the reality of this team as well. I think there was a lot of that yesterday that I think is, if people haven't had a chance to listen to that whole weekly presser, it's just a good reality check of, hey, this is where we are.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say it's...
I don't think... I think that's why he's disappointed. See,
because they're not where he wants them to be, right?
Well, I think he thinks they're somewhere where they didn't play it as well on Friday night.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would have been, and again, he sounded like a very disappointed father.
I'm not mad. I'm disappointed.
He's got 3 kids. He doesn't have huge expectations for special teams, which is his youngest child. The middle child is just like, WTF, they'll do whatever.
Yeah.
But your older child you have faith in, and that is supposed to lead the way.
Defense.
So he sounded like a dad that was very disappointed in his oldest child yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's easier to accept when you just get beat. Okay?
Yeah.
You just get flat out beat.
Like Michigan last year.
You tip your hat and you go, you know what? We played good. That team was better on that day. That's competition. There are winners and there are losers.
Yep.
But when you beat yourself more than the team beat you, I think that's when you're disappointed. And you're disappointed in your oldest child because you don't recognize your oldest child. And you wonder what's going on with your oldest child.
Hanging out with the wrong crowd.
Are they spending too much time on their phone? Are they being bullied at school?
Yep.
Okay. Are they in a relationship that they're breaking apart? Because they're not what you thought they would be. And you probably got to take them aside, take them out for a coffee, and have a conversation with them to figure out what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I looked at yesterday. He's disappointed. He is a disappointed person. But man, my ears would be ringing in that football facility if I heard my dad say they played with passion and then didn't follow it up with what we played with.
Yep.
He said Illinois played with passion. Passion to win the football game.
Yeah, they wanted to win that game since last year.
Well, you know what? Wake up call. Stop listening to sports talk radio. Stop reading the newspaper. Stop reading the websites. Stop listening to Joel Klatt, people that are tapping you on the back. You haven't won anything and you don't know how to deal with success. And that's what it looked like on Friday night. I said it in real time. And I'm just more convinced when the football coach is talking is there's some people that got fat and happy.
Yeah.
In the last couple of weeks that now it's time to lose some weight. I don't care if it's Ozempic. I don't care if it's Purdue. Whatever you got to do, it's time to lose some weight and stop being fat.
Thought you were talking to me
Fat
for
and
a
happy.
second.
But that's where I go back to the year 2 part of it. What you just said right there. That's kind of how I interpreted it. Maybe I'm way off on this in interpreting what he said. Of you get a little bit of that momentum, and then you have that Northern Iowa game where there were some things that didn't jive, but you still win, and then you get a little perspective of how bad Northern Iowa is because of how they looked against Hawaii last week too. But where in the second year process of that, and we've talked about this, handling the success part, if that's sort of the year 2 thing of there's going to be some setbacks at some point. You're going to have some momentum forward, but then there's going to be that setback. And this is the other thing that we didn't get to yesterday. I'm not drinking the Roule-Aid when it comes to this when I'm about to say this. But if you go back to last year, this team, other than November, unfortunately, this team typically responded well. And that's where I'm hoping this little year 2 of, hey, it's not all going to be, 7-0. And you said it, and I thought 6-1 at best. That was still going to be a stretch. It was who and how they would lose a game, and you saw how they lost that game. And I like the question that he posed yesterday of, we know how, but why did that happen? And that goes back to your whole point about sitting the kid down and saying, what's going on, buddy?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Because they're a good family, all right? They live in a nice house. It's a duplex in South Lincoln, okay? They don't have any problems with their driveway. Okay, it's a nice, smooth driveway. Okay, the lawn is manicured.
Oh, yeah.
It used to be overrun with weeds, and now it looks really, really good after the second summer of working on your lawn.
They put the time and effort into it, yeah.
They got a good family. People show up at 6 o'clock and they sit down at the dinner table. You know what? They're in a good spot. We just had a bad little stretch there.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? We'd like to sit down at the dinner table again and have a discussion and get back to being who we are. And we'll find out.
Such a good analogy. I mean, it really is.
At the end of the day, Lombardi here is talking to y'all. You'd have to play better. You're a good football team.
Yeah.
You need to play better. And you can play better and still get beat. But you're happy with your effort at the end of the day. There's no one that was happy with Nebraska's effort.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the one that would drive me nuts as a football coach with a misread on where my team was. But at the end of the day, the Matt Rule that spoke yesterday, until Nebraska breaks through this, and it's also on Matt Rule. I mean, loosen up, fella. When things get tight, let's don't scream and holler at the officials all the time. All right? Let's be a riverboat gambler and say, hell yeah, I got 90,000 behind me. DR go out. It's 4th down and 3. Let's roll. Because I think head coach Schlichter goes,
mm-hmm.
It's like making that noise.
Very
Is
duck-like
when,
quality.
When, again, you get beat by a team that plays better than you, but you played your best, tip your cap, move on to the next week. But when you don't play well and there are a lot of things that you left out there, that would drive me nuts. And that's what I saw yesterday. And it's on him as the head football coach to figure out the why.
Mm-hmm.
And then how do they not repeat it?
Right.
Because it's not, it's not, hey, this is only my second year here, boys. It's, he feels the weight when you lose around here in that manner, the weight of, we've been seeing that for 20 plus years.
Yeah.
You just arrived.
Yeah. And that's the other part that I know, again, he was coming into this situation last year when it came to close games and close losses. It didn't occur to him, or maybe just he didn't feel it as much. And he kind of said this yesterday too, about the older guys getting tight in that situation, as opposed to, Dylan Raiola or Jacory Barney or younger guys that haven't experienced that.
Or Nick, throw in guys that just arrived.
Yeah.
The best players for Nebraska on Friday night, how long have they been here?
1 year. Yeah, I mean, and that's exactly the thing of, that was probably the most concerning thing when he talked yesterday, that he's communicating that publicly. Not saying he shouldn't, but Matt Rule is real with us sometimes, almost to a fault.
No, I don't think I don't know where you're going here, but you don't change. I mean,
no, I'm not saying
I don't
that.
want him to all of a sudden tighten it up and we lost one game. I mean,
no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the concerning thing was hearing about, okay, you got 7 seniors on defense, and essentially talking about when things getting tight, that those guys start getting a little bit out over their skis, or they get out of their element. They start doing things that are uncharacteristic of them. And that's the veteran guys. So that's the blessing and the curse of having veterans on this football program, is unfortunately they've experienced that too much. And that's breaking old habits of, just as he said, and I guess the best way to put it would be being comfortable and being uncomfortable. Being comfortable in those uncomfortable situations when games are tight, where it seems like what I relayed that message yesterday as, the young guys are okay with that. That's they don't really know it. They just know how to compete. They know success from their previous stops. It's the older guys that have seen this far too many times that still have a little bit of that habit of getting tight and not getting excited about being in that type of game and in that type of moment, but start being tight. Those are the experienced guys. And I get it. How do you change that when that's all you've known?
Yeah.
Like, as a player, that to me is one of the biggest challenges that he still has. And I got that is still that's kind of a frustrating source it's a source of frustration for Matt Rule and his coaching staff.
Yeah, but is it a frustration for, it's also him?
It's a fair question.
I mean, the reality is we sometimes take a look at that number, but we want to keep it moving because we want something so bad around here. Is how do you get that out of your mindset if you're the head football coach?
Yeah, because you're talking about how he feels it a little bit too now, how he's feeling in those moments.
What is in big games, games that matter, the record is the record.
It is. Yeah, I mean, you look at, everybody, it was being posted before the game, it was posted after game about Matt Rule versus top 25 teams, and then Nebraska's record in one-score games and how that has gone. Those things colliding. Yeah, I mean, that is, it's a question of not necessarily, let's say, who's to blame, but as the players have to be comfortable being uncomfortable, obviously the sideline has to as well.
You know what? For 3 weeks, they looked like they were having fun.
Yeah.
Friday night, right from kickoff, except for one particular guy and a couple of his mates on offense, Nebraska didn't look like a team that was having fun.
No.
They looked like a team that was wound tight, and the head coach looked the same exact way. I don't know. Something is off with the defense. It's a weird vibe I'm getting from the defense right now. And it may be simply they got cocky playing Illinois. They looked at last year. They won 20-7. They saw some of the things that we saw and said, we got this, because if we don't got it, 15 will take care of it. Well, what you got is an L. and now it's all in the response. And we'll see how soon that comes to fruition. But that side of the ball, there's just a not where it needs to be, not where it has been, not where it should be, but why? Why is that the case? Because a majority of those guys that are over there are the same guys that were last year.
Yeah, and I'll say this would piss me off. This was, for me personally, the most disappointing thing. And I think got a hint of that in him talking to the media yesterday, too. He mentioned how Illinois played with more passion. They wanted to win that game since last year. Then he used the Colorado game from a year ago as a reference to Nebraska. That Nebraska could not wait to get on the field and play Colorado. And you saw that dominance, that passion. The entire nation that's watching that game, like, damn, this defense is no joke. This is a top 5 defense. Okay, so you have that. You have that ability to play with that type of energy, play assignment sound that way, not make mistakes. And when you do, you make up for it in a bigger way by making plays. We talked about this defense lacking some of those plays here the last couple of weeks. To me, that would be frustrating because it's like, okay, so one team can get you to play at that level, but a Northern Iowa or an Illinois can't. What's the problem there? Why is that not more consistent?
All right, a little bit later, Sam McKuen, BC on 1620 The Zone. All right, welcome back in on a Tuesday morning. While everybody was excited about Jaden Daniels, we're kind of hoping Cincinnati would rally, would win the game.
Why? Oh, never mind.
Because
just some shekels.
myself, like many others,
It's over.
it's over. There are 144 people in my survivor pool.
Oh, sorry, man.
There is nobody left. And it's week 3.
What do you guys do?
It's not even October.
See, I feel like if there's nobody left, why don't you guys
Start over?
reassess? Yeah. I mean,
I don't know. I don't want to do that.
no?
I don't want to do like the second chance survivor pool.
Yeah, it's like when you do the
Like McAfee's kick.
I'm not like a cat that gets 9 lives. When you're in a survivor pool, you get 1 year.
what's the
When
like
when the year is over, you go home sad.
do the busted bracket challenge where my bracket got
No,
busted.
I don't do that.
Good for you. You're a man of integrity.
Winners
I would
win,
though if there's money on the line.
Winners win, losers lose. And when you lose, you have to accept that you're a loser. And I accepted last night. I'm a loser. But God, that money would have been good because there were only 29 people coming into this weekend that were still alive.
I was burned from last year when I went Minnesota in week 1. I was gone. And somebody actually
You're
made
ahead
it
of
out to
schedule.
week 15 is when ours actually ended.
Yeah, this is a weird year in the NFL. They screw this. Damn NFL. I'm
Wow.
off you. Thank God the NBA is about to start.
For anybody who took my advice on
Wait, I got Chris Paul. Yeah.
whoever's taking Carolina.
I play Survivor NBA too.
Do you? You probably do. It's a long season.
I mean,
Wait,
if you can make it
are you still doing NASCAR fantasy, by the way?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God, you're a sicko.
Because we're in the playoffs, I am doing really – I'm not going to win my fantasy baseball. I know people want to hear this. I'm not going to win my fantasy baseball. I'm going to finish probably third because
of Vinny?
Yeah, Pasquantino went
Sorry,
down.
man.
Friggin' A. Royals.
You know, it was great on last Thursday when because that was we were all kind of between Connor, Josh, and myself at our table. We're like, man, all right, Shohei did it, cool. And Marty comes over, he's talking to us, and he's like, yeah, how about Shohei, huh? 6 for 6, it's huge for my fantasy. I'm like, oh yeah, and then there's that historical reference too. He might go 60-60, but yeah, good for your fantasy team.
NASCAR, my playoff challenge, I have all the drivers still alive. Oh, I'm cooking there. But like even I looked, the big Circa in Vegas Survivor pool is maybe like 12% of the people are left.
Yeah.
It's been a rough start. So for all you Washington fans, I want you to realize what you've done to us.
I know of one.
I'm going to have to skip.
Dirk's a big Washington fan, right?
John Schreiner is.
I'm going to have to
Schreiner is,
skip
that's true.
that trip to Costco to buy a box of Uncrustables because of what Washington did last night. How did we feel about the staggered Monday Night Football? Because we're going to get it next week too.
I want to say I don't like it, but I watched it, so I can't say that.
I will fully admit I watched a quarter of the Bills game. There was no reason to watch any more of that anyway. And then I put myself through. And by the way, thank you for kind of jumping into my thought process and my own nightmare of quarterback hell with the Chicago Bears. Because as I am watching Jaden Daniels, it was more of I'm watching Cliff Kingsbury thinking, God, the Bears passed on him. And I know
can't wait till they hang 50 on the Cowboys.
He's not for everybody. He's not for every organization. But then I'm watching Jaden Daniels just drop dime after dime, thinking that would probably offset a bad offensive line. So yeah, I put myself through that torture. But I'm also I love Cam Taylor-Britt. I love the fact that he keeps coming back, and he's all Nebraska as well. Bengals, I'm not a Bengal fan. I'm not like even Zach Taylor. As he talks, he's very non-confident right now with what's going on. Doesn't seem like he has the
no
answers.
Sam Weish, rest in peace.
Bill Belichick might be eyeing Cincinnati right now.
People
too.
forget Zach Taylor started 0-11 in his NFL career and then won a game.
Yep.
They maybe also forget that he went to a Super Bowl, but they have Super Bowl hangover. But the staggered Monday Night Football, okay. It's not like they're going to throw 2 great games at you.
Yeah.
Why don't they stagger Sunday?
Like the primetime?
Noon, 1, 2, 3.
They used to kind of do that in the 70s. You'd have a 12 game, a 2 game, a 3 game. And
in the NFL?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
I don't know why.
I've always known it as the 12 and the 3 o'clock game in my NFL
Well, in our
days.
lives, it's been that. Yeah. They cut that out, I think.
Obviously, TV is a lot different now.
You know, I'm a proponent of football Saturdays. Stagger it. I mean,
Yeah.
Nebraska Rutgers are playing at 3 o'clock. That's an odd start time because you have the 11, 2:30,
That's what my wife said.
6:30/7 window. I like it. I like the staggering. But in the NFL, can
Is
you
that
imagine
what the Pac-12 is going to do?
Can you imagine? I don't know what they're going to do after yesterday.
They're going to play
That's
at 4.
That's like speed dating.
The music stopped.
But the NFL, like 12. Well, what if we get like 3 games at noon?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I might be speaking for
Why couldn't you get an East Coast 11 a.m. game?
Because like 11 a.m. here?
So noon here, East Coast would be 11 a.m. there.
That's the other way around. We're 11, they'd be 12.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, never mind. 11 a.m. here, 12 there. Why can't we? We have 11 a.m. football.
What time is it in Indianapolis right now?
It is 7:55. Sorry about that.
Just want to play time zone?
I know time zone sometimes.
Now,
I get confused.
11 a.m. NFL game? Okay.
Better than the Fox
we see
pregame
11 a.m. You're damn right. We've seen 11 a.m. college football. We love that. Why not 11 a.m. here?
11-1-3.
Yeah, why not stagger some Sunday?
And then you don't have to watch the very prolonged NBC pregame.
You said that. I thought of Costas, and I went to a different time for an NBC pregame.
I miss Bob Costas. I'd like to have him
Brian
back.
Gumbel and Mike Adamle.
I know Bob Costas hates football, so that's never happening.
Jesus, what do you want? Musburger and Irv Cross?
It's better than Jason Garrett.
Wait till you hear about Jimmy the Greek.
Jimmy the Greek. Leslie Visser.
Leslie Visser.
Not
Phyllis
Leslie Visser.
George.
Phyllis George.
Okay.
I think everyone.
I'm
but
okay with
Brent's
Leslie Visser.
gone now.
What do you want? What do you want? More college football pregame with Andrea Joyce and Mike Francesa?
Nice.
Sure. Bring me back Dan Patrick.
Jim Nantz and Pat Hayden calling the Big 8 game of the week.
The
Red Zone could still exist with staggered starts.
It could, yes,
you just wouldn't
absolutely.
have you wouldn't have the witching hour,
right? But
and that would screw up my nap because I like to
Do you do it
where the Chiefs are playing. I work my Sunday nap around.
Do you do it
so
in
I
between?
can wake up? So I can wake up at noon or at the halftime of the late games.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
so I do it like right after the witching hour ends.
Gotcha. Because your slate next Monday, by the way.
At least the Lions are on.
Titans and the Dolphins, who will be on quarterback number 3.
Hopefully, keep their pants
Seahawks,
on.
Lions. Yeah.
Seahawks,
you get to watch the Lions.
That's not a bad game.
Yeah. I mean, hey, Seahawks are 3-0.
It's been suggested I adopt them as my new team.
Geno Smith.
Chuck Knox hat.
And that's the late game, the 7:15 game. But Titans, Dolphins.
Remember what happened last year? That's where we fell in love with Will Levis.
Yeah.
Late drive for the Titans.
Boy, have things changed.
Hey, I've fallen out of love with Mike McDaniel. I have no idea what he's doing against Seattle. I know that they were down to a guy named Tim Boyle, who the day before was on the Big Ten Network reading scores, and now he's quarterbacking in the NFL. But man,
let's go to our halftime update with Tim Boyle.
He looks so off in whatever they were trying to do out in Seattle.
That's all right. He's got his side hustle on right now. He's good.
Shout out Chris Fowler if you saw the Hamlin interception.
Yes. He did a good job last night. I liked it.
So the voice, you immediately think college football. So it's odd to hear Fowler's voice on an NFL game.
Just like Herbstreit on Thursdays.
He went with, it was okay. Some might say it's cliche. He went with the walking miracle because that was Hamlin's first career interception.
He and Riddick were good together.
On a Monday night, that was cool.
I mean, the voice immediately like Sean McDonough. When I hear Sean McDonough, I'm waiting for him to describe Warren Morris hitting a home run.
Yes.
But Fowler's voice is
Francisco
like college
Cabrera.
football. He's doing the NFL. I even do the same thing when he's doing all the majors in tennis. But him and Riddick were pretty good. I mean,
I like Louis Riddick.
They don't use Louis Riddick enough on ESPN.
I
agree.
I mean, and they use him a lot, but I think they could use him more. I mean, he ain't no Stephen A. Smith, but what he brings to the table is great. Is absolutely great.
Yeah, I'm a huge Louis Riddick fan. At one point, I wanted to see him be the GM for the Chicago Bears.
Who didn't? I thought he was going to. Well, I think he interviewed for the Chiefs before Veach got hired.
Yeah, he's had some interviews too. I don't know if it's
There's still a chance, Nick.
Well, and I'm sure he would acknowledge this now. He did dub Mitch Trubisky as Maserati Mitch, thinking that he was going to be a.
Everybody makes a mistake. Some think that Caleb Williams is going to be better than Jaden Daniels or Drake Mayo. You know what?
Hate the Drake.
Jaden Daniels came into a great situation. So all those guys out there and gals that are wearing those faded John Riggins jerseys, you may have finally found the promised land. All right, update with Jimmy coming up after the top of the hour. Also, Sam McKuen will stop by. Thoughts on Friday, and now moving on to Purdue, where Purdue, the cradle of quarterbacks, 110th in the country in passing offense. Last 2 weeks, Hudson Card, he was a good interview at Big Ten Media Days. He hasn't been a good quarterback. 18 of 41, 180 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions last 2 weeks for Hudson Card.
That's why Mike Schaefer named his son after Hudson, by the way.
Because he was a good interview.
Yeah.
Nice kid.
Yeah. Big Hudson Card fans.
I thought it was
family.
Tim Hudson, but no.
No.
Not necessarily a good guy.
Oh,
Morning.
man.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah. That's what happens when you play in the A's organization. Weird stuff.
Feel bad for him.
Weird stuff.
Feel bad for him. It's always the crappiest uncle or relative that wants to speak at the funeral. That's what John Fisher of the A's is. Update with Jimmy coming up next.
For the third straight week, both Nebraska and Creighton volleyball are ranked in the top 10. The Huskers rise to number 2, no surprise there. And the Blue Jays have won the Jayhawk Classic with back-to-back top 10 wins, ranked number 6. They program best for the Creightons. So it is a volleyball state. Nebraska swept then number 2 Stanford and Lincoln before traveling to then number 4 Louisville and sweeping the Cardinals. They're 10-1. They've defeated 5 ranked teams this season. Playoff baseball, Werner Park tonight. The Storm Chasers in Columbus at 6:35. Be there. It'll be a gorgeous night. Utah State has accepted an invitation to join the Pac-12 and become the newly formatted conference's 7th member. The move comes amid a dizzying day of realignment west of here that saw the Pac-12's interest in a handful of AAC schools get rebuffed. The Mountain West expected to retain a commitment from key member Air Force, the entire Air Force, all of them. And UNLV's decision became uncertain after its commitment to the Mountain West Conference earlier in the day was not formalized. Utah State reported acceptance would make it the 5th school from the Mountain West to join Oregon State, Washington State. In the rebuilding Pac-12, Utah State would join Boise State, Fresno State, San Diego State, and Colorado State, and All-State, who have announced they're going to the league. UNLV is expected to re-engage in conversations with the Pac-12 after its so-called commitment to the Mountain West earlier in the day was not formalized. They agreed to a memorandum of understanding to return to the Mountain West. We all know how that goes. When Utah State decided not to return and go to the Pac-12, UNLV officials agreed to pause and further explore their options. Stay tuned. Some of the highest profile targets of the Pac-12 expansion have rebuffed interests, such as Memphis, Tulane, USF, and UTSA. Damn, I was looking forward to the Pac-12 in San Antonio. Anyway, they all committed to stay in the Athletic as of yesterday. The schools announced their intentions on social media like everyone else does, which solidifies the AAC in the short term. So certainly it's good as gold, just like a grant of rights. Anyway, shout out Alec Boehm. Why? For the first time in 13 years, the Philadelphia Phillies are headed to the postseason as your National League East champs. Kyle Schwarber and JT Realmuto won deep. Phillies fans went wild. And pitcher Aaron Nola provided a taste of just how great it would feel for an entire franchise if Philly went all the way. Phillies won the NL East for the first time since 2011, clinching the division title with a 6-2 victory over the Cubs last night. Other baseball, Yordan Alvarez has a sprained right knee and won't play in the Astros series against Seattle, which goes through tomorrow. They lost last night. He left Sunday's game with the Angels when he was injured sliding in the second base on a double in the third inning. This could be avoided if he had a home run. The Astros are a win away from clinching the American League West title. So win it already, damn it. Finally, 2005 Heisman Trophy winner Reggie Bush announced that he has filed a lawsuit against the University of Southern California, the Pac-12, and the NCAA, seeking compensation for his name, image, and likeness during his time with the program. His legal team says the 3 organizations earned significant compensation thanks to Bush's significant popularity and prominence by way of TV contracts, merchandise sales, and media rights. His attorneys also said in a release that even after he left USC to play in the NFL, the 3 entities continued to benefit financially from his reputation without any acknowledgement of his contribution. Damn right, Reggie. F him.
Yeah, that will be uncomfortable. Back to the absolutely dumb stuff that was going on yesterday with the Pac-12 and the Mountain West Conference. So it's just like speed dating. What if we did a quiz here and I asked you to name the current 7 members of the Pac-12 and the 7 members of the Mountain West Conference? Would you be able to pull it off?
Let's see. So Oregon State, Washington State, Utah State, Colorado State, San Diego State. Who am I missing?
Where's Gonzaga going?
I need to add a state at the end. They're going to be Gonzaga State. God, who am I missing here?
This is like midweek realignment. You know what?
Doesn't hit the same.
I got some football. Save this for the summer.
This is such a Pac-12 thing, too. They can't even get the realignment news right. They can do it during the offseason when nobody's talking about football. You think people care about your realignment right now?
I still wonder what happens to the Summit League, because North Dakota State and South Dakota State would be, if you like wanted to make the Snow Belt part of the Mountain West.
Snow Belt, yeah.
Could the Summit League exist without North Dakota State and South Dakota State? I mean, it's already Denver wants. They got 1 foot out the door. Kansas City's got 1 foot out the door. They already dropped Western Illinois.
Yeah.
St. Thomas will be in the Big East in about 10 years.
Omaha has already been evaluated by the Missouri Valley Conference once upon a time.
Movo.
I'm going to say no, they couldn't, because the South Dakota, well, first of all, the whole conference being located in South Dakota, very Dakota-centric, mainly South Dakota. Also, the success that the South Dakota State has had in both men's and women's basketball as well. North Dakota State has had their run as well.
Basketball, definitely. Football.
Yeah. So, and I get it. Football is not part of the Summit League umbrella. But as far as the brand, the school brand itself, yeah, I mean, there's success attached to both of those schools. That would be a tough pill to swallow, because when you're saying too, they would like to make that have football in the Summit League as well.
I mean, could the Summit League have a hockey conference?
Yes.
Why is Omaha and North Dakota playing in somebody else's and Denver playing in somebody else's conference?
Well, and
Summit League hockey, Summit League football, could they keep things together? Because I've worried for recently about the future of the Summit League, because you hear every time you run into somebody from Denver, they're like, we're out. Kansas City, you know what? Summit League is below us. Missouri Valley Conference is interested in us.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow. Now all of a sudden you might have a conference that has Abilene Christian. Boy, that'll be a nice trip.
Fun road trip for
That'll
you.
be a nice trip for non-basketball.
Yeah, absolutely.
Been through Abilene before. Can't say much about it.
The hockey part of it, you mentioned 3 of those schools right there. I mean, hey, Omaha had a great season last year. 2 of them, recent national champions, and also very, very strong hockey history when it comes to championships. So you would...
You have a hockey guy running the league, the commissioner.
Right, and Josh Fenton.
I mean, that would be a terrible look to have a league just fall apart under his watch.
Yes, especially when you come in. I know there was a lot of things, and you know this probably better than I do, but having a chance to talk to Josh Fenton during the CWS last year when Oral Roberts made it, I know that he was a little bit more hush on the hockey element of it, but you can tell that's his wheelhouse. And I always thought
he was great in that role with the NCAA.
Yes, he was. I mean, that conference, it stands on its own now. I know there's people on the East Coast that would like to debate this, maybe even the Big Ten, but as far as the depth of that conference and the national champions that have come through that conference, he was the original commissioner there that built that thing up. I think if you corner Josh Fenton and you're able to have a real conversation, I think that was always the goal, is to, take over the Summit, but how do you make the Summit League even bigger, especially having those hockey brands in there, given where you're located in the country? That would be the next phase. But you can't do that, in my opinion, without, not that North Dakota State and South Dakota State have hockey programs or anything, but if you lose those for your overall conference, your athletic conference blueprint, that's a tough pill to swallow there, and a tough way to survive.
I don't know, man. I look at 8 ranked teams from the NCHC in the preseason poll, and Omaha's 15th. Boy, I get to see some of them in the Summit League. And I wonder, Texter says, what if they could convince some Northern Sun or MIAA to move up? Then if I was Omaha, I'd get the hell out.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't play in a league like that.
Well, especially from the basketball standpoint too.
I mean, I would get out. I don't know. Maybe the MOVO is the way to go. But I'm very concerned about the future of the Summit League if football comes into play, and North Dakota State and South Dakota State, if that's real. We'll see. I mean, yesterday was wild. That was a dumb day.
Well,
it just didn't make. I mean,
well, and poor UNLV. They're like, all right, cool, we'll stick around.
I think UNLV is holding out for the Big 12.
Why not at this point, too?
Bring them. I want revenge.
I mean, seriously, why not at this point? Again, having a basketball brand, football is fine.
Here's another part of realignment being dumb, and this hits right home in the Big Ten. You see where Washington plays this weekend?
No. Where are they? Are they in?
So it's Monday. Actually, today is Tuesday, but this is from yesterday. Washington's equipment truck took off from Seattle yesterday to drive to New Jersey.
Okay, that's what I thought they were in. Okay.
Monday.
Yeah.
Usually the Nebraska equipment truck, boom, Thursday it's out. So Friday they unload, the locker room is set, team lands on Friday, here we go. They have to leave on Monday. I actually hope they do like a vlog of their cross-country trip. But just think about how insane that is.
Oh, yeah, because they play. Okay, yeah, they play Friday.
Vice versa, like when does Wisconsin's equipment truck leave to go to L.A.?
Yeah. Or when Rutgers plays out in L.A.
Yeah, but Washington, and you're way up in the Pacific Northwest. I mean, you're the furthest away. You are leaving on a Monday.
To be there by Friday morning.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're right. They should chronicle each day. All right, here's where we stopped. This is what part of the country we stopped in. And they could kind of do the old Ed Foley diners. They could do reviews of because when you
and
see the
find a kicker along the way.
Can we borrow one?
How about finding a punter?
You have the maps, boing, 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 and it all goes from Washington to Piscataway. They don't really show us the stops of. See, that's what they should do on the new Maps commercial. They should show different travels of where they're coming from Seattle, how they would actually get to Piscataway, where they're coming from Eugene, how they would get to State College.
I think that would be a great story. It's still Selden Trucking, right? That does Nebraska's cross country
out in Shelby.
I think it'd be great to be embedded with them.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Sitting in
That'd
the
be some
cab
content.
because of where you stop and people are taking pictures or people that drive by. Like we're actually kind of lucky where we are here in Omaha.
Mm-hmm.
Periodically, if you are on I still call them freeways, but our interstate
Interstates
system in Omaha.
It's
interstates,
a freeway.
man. It's interstates. Get on board,
Because
guys.
of 80, you will see, I see at least a couple of times a year a NASCAR hauler coming through, or you might get an equipment truck that is, going to Lincoln or somewhere else to another part of the country.
Tennessee's
Will roll
wrecked
through
the
here, and
other
all of a
day.
sudden you're like, whoa.
Yeah, it's worth a
tell us
watch.
that, give them a honk.
Yep.
Woo, woo.
You do. You get the
Kids
hunks.
still do that? Like, do
No.
kids still put their arms
I
out the
think
window
so.
to give?
Do they? I don't.
Some do.
I need truckers to call. Like when I would do that all the time
Yeah.
when we'd travel across the country.
Oh,
You'd drive up next to a trucker and you'd be like, and you'd be like hoping for a horn.
when they give it back to you, no matter how
Hell
the day
yeah.
goes, the rest of the day or the
Hell
rest of
yeah.
the week, you've accomplished everything you wanted to
I
accomplish.
feel like for
that day.
them, it's good too. They like that. Hey, thanks.
Well, yeah. I mean, usually it's
a
like,
kid. You bet.
they're like, gosh, dang.
I need to talk to
Why
Derek.
can't we get around this guy?
I need to talk to Derek out of Winter Park. Do they instruct their drivers when they see a little kid
It's part of the
in
handbook.
a car
Them's the
that is
rules.
given the
Yep.
horn signal if they are required to hit the horn? Because
What
I
if-
think they should.
what if
It's
it says-
America gone right.
If it says on the back of the truck, if a driver does not honk, please call this number.
I mean,
How's my driving? And also, did he honk back?
I mean,
1-800-EAT.
I've seen a bumper sticker before. Honk if you're horny.
yeah. Oh, yeah. You don't see that one anymore. That was one of the great ones growing up.
Because
Honk if you're horny.
it's gone strictly to the internet.
Everyone gets canceled now.
So when we do the bus trips for baseball, sometimes we had to take the black shirt bus.
Yeah.
Oh, you would get a
yeah.
lot of honks.
Well,
on our way out to Champaign, Illinois, we'd get a lot of honks.
when we bus for basketball, so the Omaha bus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like labeled? Is it?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. You get some responses, but wouldn't it be great to be embedded with one of these equipment trucks? Because, the stories, like the reaction you get from people, or when you pull up, like how the
hell do you park that thing?
How many people went, like recently when Colorado was here and they parked their equipment truck? You're taking pictures outside. Like I remember last year walking by Michigan's equipment truck, and it was the decals and everything on it were pretty cool.
Yeah.
That would be a good news story to ride, like from, I don't know, what's Nebraska's further? Well, like Nebraska to LA when they go to SC in the middle of November.
Yep.
Just to see the responses of people.
I know people at Selden. I can get you hooked up with that. Because then you say you wanted to. Oh wait.
Yeah. I like go out there with them, but I'm going to fly back.
Right.
Okay.
Because I would like to go to the game. I am a little bit. If they could drop me off in Vegas, I have something on that Friday.
Yeah, I was
before they play on
going to say, I know
Saturday.
you got something going on that weekend, but maybe they could make a little pit stop there. I mean, who is a truck? See, that's the beauty of hauling the equipment out to the West Coast. You could stop in Vegas for a night. You might have to leave a day earlier than what you're normally going to do.
Yeah, Corey says he saw Fresno State and drive through Lincoln and UNLV not too long ago.
Nice.
That's America gone right with equipment trucks, but we need the horns.
How great would it be though? Like at Circa or just anywhere you just see an equipment truck sitting there in the parking lot. It'd have to be on like the main level of parking structure.
I want to know where we got to get these guys on the horn. I mean, West Lafayette's an easy trip.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe before they go to Bloomington, which, wow, it's a long way. It's a long way to West Lafayette. It's the same friggin' distance.
Pretty much is. Yeah.
Like where do they stop? Like I imagine if you're going to West Lafayette or Bloomington, you're driving straight through.
Yeah, you're not going to
13
get
hours.
in Chicago. That's for sure.
Hammer is down.
Yep.
But if you're going to LA, you might like stop somewhere. But I want to know when you stop, like where are we eating? Are we sleeping in the cab? Like do you periodically get bored and you open the back of the equipment truck and you take out some footballs and start playing catch?
You try some helmets on and stuff.
At the Flying J truck stop, you're out there. Yeah, you put the equipment on.
You go on just for a bathroom break. You're in full gear.
We have an issue at the truck stop in Utah.
What the hell happened to this? This guy's committed.
I'm sure it's been done before, but I think it would be a really cool story to travel with these guys.
Well, especially now.
That's a neat deal. Like if you work at that trucking company, that they. I mean, Tennessee's equipment truck, by the way, got into an accident the other day.
Yep.
But that's kind of like a cool deal. I'm hauling Nebraska football, but maybe not a big deal if I'm hauling Washington football all the way to friggin' New Jersey.
Well, we had the Tennessee equipment.
And then I got to come back.
Tennessee equipment crash. We also had the Luke Bryant in Chicago. It got caught under the overpass there.
Yeah, if you want to go a step further, remember Dave Matthews
Had
a little toilet issue right over the river.
Yes.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
I think now with the bi-coastal conferences that you see, this should be tracked at least once or twice. I mean, come on. Again, BTN, you've got inventory, man. Let's do one of these things on the road.
Instead of campus eats, we have on the road.
Yeah, on the road. I think it'd be awesome.
Ryan on Twitter says we did a road trip a year ago as a family, and my kids got plenty of honks when doing the truck horn thing.
Good. I'm glad to hear it's still going.
That's a solid parent right there.
Mm-hmm.
America has gone right.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Sam McKeown's going to join us here in a little bit. Jimmy mentioned the Storm Chasers today play at 6:35 against the Columbus Clippers.
Gorgeous evening
in the International League playoffs. It is a best 2 out of 3. If you are a Royals fan and you don't want to watch the Nationals game in D.C. today, and you'd like to take your mind off of it, you can get out to Warner Park. Noah Cameron, who I think will be in the Royals rotation sooner than later, is pitching tonight for the Storm Chasers. But before we ever get there, 10 a.m. this morning, the Omaha Storm Chasers have a major announcement.
Rolling roof.
It is a significant announcement regarding the Omaha Storm Chasers. That is at 10 a.m. This morning.
Are you going to be at the game tonight, by the way?
Yes, I am.
Okay. You'll have to let me know if James Karinchak, if he gets in, that crazy bastard.
They actually got a break because Cleveland called up a couple of key players for Columbus once September hit.
Yeah, and division champions.
I don't know if Karinchak is. I mean, he's on a rehab assignment. He has not been in the mix at all. So
that announcement by the Storm
wacky.
Chasers will probably come up during the crossover. But be looking for that. That's going to happen at about 10 a.m. This morning. They're going to play baseball tonight. Weather should be okay.
Perfect.
Game 1. It's been 10 years. What would be, like the Supernovas winning the championship, and they've done a great job. They've done a great job in the promotion, and that I think everybody that's wanted to has seen the trophy. Like they take the trophy to parades and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So they've done a great job.
It's like the cup.
And, it was celebrated. They had 11,000 there when they won.
And he was 72nd in Dodge.
Storm Chasers have won before.
Oh,
I mean, that
told you.
Some really good teams.
Told you. It was my second date with my wife.
Unfortunately, back when the USHL mattered, the Lancers hung a couple of banners.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Beef have won.
Yeah.
If the Storm Chasers won the AAA championship again, and again, it's been 10 years, would it be a big celebration? Because the Supernova thing seemed like it was a big celebration.
I think you can, yeah. I think they have more than done their part in the community. And let's see, this would be when they won it 10 years ago. What year of this is Warner Park?
This would be a year 11.
Okay, yeah, because it was shortly after they opened Warner Park is when they won that. That's what I thought. I think it'd go over very well because you've now had not only that old Omaha Royals fan base that have made their way out to Warner Park, but now you got a brand new audience there too in Sarpy County. I think it'd be very, very good.
Sarpy County announcement at 10 a.m. from the Storm Chasers today.
I see what you're doing there.
Sarpy County Tourism?
No, they're
Big Ten Ballpark.
No, Warner Park isn't going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, it's just being renamed Big Ten Ballpark.
This happens to be Sarpy County.
That's true. Yeah.
Not everything lives in Sarpy County. Not everything lives in Douglas County.
That is true, too.
A lot of people live in Washington County, I found out.
29.
I'm a big fan of Blair.
Blair's great.
Great golf course out there.
Yes.
Great golf course in Blair.
Favorite
only place I ever broke 80.
And it has got, what's the bakery you sent me to?
Oh, Jim and Connie's.
They've got apple fritters bigger than,
Yeah, boy.
They have got apple fritters bigger than the offensive lineman that scored a touchdown last night for Washington.
And if you're a glazed donut fan, I don't think you're doing any better than those ones. They are fantastic.
4.8 on Yelp.
Yeah,
Let's go.
But they only take cash.
That is very true.
Sam McKuen. Yeah. They're like the
Sorry, did I not tell you that? I'm sorry. Maybe I didn't tell you.
No, I had to drive down the street, go to the ATM. I don't carry cash.
I had to do that the first time.
That place in Blair is the anti-Memorial Stadium.
Yep.
I'm a fan of Blair.
Blair's cool.
A little bit too long for my commute.
Yeah, sure. Well,
Yeah.
considering where you live, yeah.
Oh, these look good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
those glazed donuts.
Oh, and I met Connie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I made Connie laugh.
Pop me an extra metformin and let's
I think
go.
I do a good job of hitting on older women.
I don't know what
But
that
in
says
my
about
age
you.
now, older women are like,
Oh, they're attracted to you.
Sophia Loren.
You know how to hit those buttons.
they think I'm funny. Where were you at?
Again, what does that say about you?
Where were you at 25 years ago? Sam McKuen, the World Herald, joins us next. All right, ahead of an 11 a.m. kick against Purdue on Peacock exclusively. Coming up on Saturday in West Lafayette, Indiana. Purdue is 1-2, coming off a loss to Oregon State. 38-21, Oregon State ran a lot of plays, bludgeoned Purdue on the ground. Nebraska gets ready for them, and we get ready for our weekly visit with Sam McKuen of the World Herald. Good morning, Sam.
Good morning, guys.
Hey, let's do. I think we're all in agreement. Nebraska is a better football team, but not yet ready to be the hunted. They like to be the hunter, but when they're hunted, you still got to figure that out. But let's start this conversation with a fit check. Where do you think Nebraska is now that we're a third of the way through the season? What's the reality of Nebraska football in 2024, a third of the way through the season?
Well, I think there's a couple of different things that I think about. One of them is that you have this conversation about complementary football. Coaches talk about this a lot, and it's, the offense and the defense and the special teams all sort of operating in a way that helps each other. And I think Nebraska's still working toward that. I think special teams hasn't necessarily been very helpful at times. And I'm not just talking about missed field goals, but punting and kickoff. I think Nebraska's offense is a quick strike operation that can put points on the board very quickly. But when you do that, your defense is out there probably a little bit longer. And I think Nebraska's defense, while a good unit, has been, a little conservative, a little more conservative than maybe they were at times last season. And I think as a result, all those things kind of fit into a whole. Mm-hmm. And one of the interesting things about Dylan Raiola, right, is that, this is a kid that's got a lot of talent, and you're not going to just keep that, you're not going to keep that talent in a box. You're going to let him throw the football and use his skill set and all those things. But one of the reasons that I asked Matt Rule after the Friday night's game about running the ball more is I did feel like, Nebraska was like, let's just go out there and score as quickly as we can. And the reality is Nebraska's defense is actually a little undersized. Like, it's not the largest defense in the Big Ten by any means. And I think Illinois wore them down a little bit. And then you get to the overtime, and it's like, well, let's, and Rule said it, let's take a shot. And that's all fine. But I just don't know that Nebraska has created necessarily its plan to win football games in the same way that it did last year. This year, it's get off to a fast start, get a lead, keep a lead. Last year, they wanted to sort of, pace themselves through the four quarters. I think they're still trying to figure out how to do that with a quarterback who can score really quickly.
Defensively, are you looking more at, and I know Matt Rule talked about, again, some of the missed tackles, the yards after contact, and those things that we've now seen for 2 weeks, but also the communication breakdowns. Is that more concerning, or is that, in your opinion, something that if we look at the category of fixable elements, that's a fixable one that can be fixed rather quickly?
It can be fixed immediately. But sometimes when you have situations where players are freelancing within a defense, the question becomes trust. Is everybody trusting everybody to do their job? Is everybody trying to make sure that they're doing their 111 versus trying to do more than what they're asked to do? And so sometimes what will happen in defenses, especially when you have Illinois trying to do 3 or 4 different things on every given play, is everybody's got to be responsible for everything. And as a result, if somebody's not doing what they're supposed to be doing, then it can look bad. The other thing to worth noting here is that Nebraska went to a man-to-man coverage style later in the game because the zone stuff wasn't working that well. They're not great at dropping into coverage. They've got some young guys that are doing that for the first time, Ty Wallen or Prince Willem and Yellen. And I think, again, you're running into situations where Illinois had kind of figured out what they wanted to do. And they were very efficient on third down, and they had an idea of where they wanted to throw the football, in Nebraska's zone. So then Nebraska goes man, and Nebraska didn't man it up very well. And so there's a lot of different circumstances in there that I'm sure Tony White will talk about today. The Husker defense is trying to work through a bunch of different things. And he's going to go in there and say, it's on me, and it's my fault. Right. We need to be better and all those things. And I appreciate all that. I think the deeper dive is, okay, how do you have enough defensive linemen and linebackers rotating through so that guys don't get worn down. And, can Nebraska think about its offense in a way where it's running the football a little bit more? And again, that's challenging because you're not going to just say to Dylan, hey, we're going to throw it 15 times today. And you're going to be, we're going to put the light in the box here, and you're going to stand back there and maybe throw a few passes, but we're not going to ask you to do very much.
Mm-hmm.
You want to ask Dylan Raiola to do a lot. But when you do that, you are going to expose your defense to more plays and more of the other team's offense. I don't know how many drives it was against Colorado, like 14. And Nebraska's defense played amazing that night, but they didn't play amazing against Illinois. And I think, again, plays accumulate over time, and you've got to be mindful of the exposure to your defense. Nebraska's defense in 2018 was probably better than its statistics suggested, but Scott Frost never slowed his offense down. And so that's something to watch, the complementary football aspect of what they do going forward.
So stick with defense here, because you said two things that triggered a question. What was your feeling on? I know they've been able in the first 3 weeks. They played a lot of guys. I mean, they're deep, and they want guys to get experience in different situations. But as they couldn't get off the field, it seemed like they were trying for any combination. They were substituting a lot in that game when they could, when Illinois would not go full tempo. What do you think that Rule and Tony White will pare down the amount of guys that are playing, or will it just be on a game-by-game basis that if Purdue all of a sudden goes from running 47 plays against Oregon State to running 75 on Saturday, we have no choice but to substitute guys on a regular basis?
I think it'll be the latter when you get into games where the play numbers are up in the 70s, because it's just too hard to ask Nash, Hutmaker, and Ty Robinson to play that many plays. I think that's really challenging, and a lot of guys don't do that. And so I do think there's opportunities to rotate when you're getting up into those numbers. I think when you're down in the 50s, I think you can probably lean more on some of your more elite guys. And I mean, that's what they trained all year for anyway. So, I think there's an opportunity for those guys to play it a little more. You're right that, they had a lot of different guys out there, Keona Davis and Kai Wallen, and Prince Will is basically a co-starter. I know he doesn't have a black shirt, but he's playing a lot. Like, he's playing half of the snaps. MJ Sherman's playing the other half of the snaps, and I think Prince Will had a few more. And so he's a much better pass rusher. So I think he's on the field for a reason. But yeah, I mean, I think you've got to find the right balance there between rotating guys in because depth issues, and then playing your best guys. I would just say that it's not going to be easy. And they're at a point where they're trying to build for the future, and they're trying to build a culture that's going to be good in year 3 and year 4 and beyond, but simultaneously win a whole bunch of games this season. And sometimes those tasks aren't easy to hold at the same time, which is why rules like I told Riley Van Poppel to get his helmet. Yeah. You might have to play, and there's a lot of things there. What I will say again is the complementary football piece is real. Iowa football is good this year. They're good. I don't give a crap if they lost by 1 point to Iowa State. They're going to take Ohio State to the wire. And they don't care about – they don't build their team around their quarterback. They didn't when C.J. Beathard was there, and they don't do it at all. They don't build their team around the quarterback. And they do what they do, and they're very complimentary in the way they play, and they win a lot of football games. Nebraska does not really want to play like Iowa. A lot of people don't want to play like Iowa, and that's fine. But the point is that, like, if you want to see what it looks like, that's what it looks like. And Nebraska doesn't want to do that, and that's okay. But their defense is going to be more exposed as a result, so they better score more points. So and they better find a way to be more efficient on offense.
Yeah. On the heels of what Nick asked you in your response, on the defense, does it appear to you, and remember, we spent an offseason where the head coach was talking about taking the ball away, and they were practicing it. Mm-hmm. Last year, the first guy in would make the tackle. Then if another guy came in, they might be going for the strip. It appears that it's reversed this year. Are you seeing the same thing?
I am. Yeah, I think I don't. And that was an interesting point about the note about tackling, and he wants the first guy to go in and make the strike and knock the guy down, and that's fine. I mean, again, it's hard to be. And then MJ Sherman's flagged for trying to punch the ball out. Although the guy was kind of on the ground, so you got to time your punch a little bit better than that. But yeah, I mean, I think they're trying to create turnovers, and guess what? They did. They created 2 turnovers that should have led to 2 touchdowns, and those 2 touchdowns are pretty sweet. So I think Rule wants both. I think he wants the defense to both knock guys down and also create turnovers, and those things are fine. But yeah, I mean, it's a great point that they're probably going to go back to striking more, and that's fine. You may not force as many fumbles, but you're gonna get what you get, and that's perfectly okay. There's a lot of different levers that you can pull on a defense. You can create a defense that forces punts. You can create a defense that forces turnovers. Sometimes it's hard to create both. And Nebraska, again, they're betwixt and between. They're trying to figure out exactly who they want to be. And I think they're tweaking the knobs or whatever to try to figure out exactly who they want to be. I think they got to run the ball a little more, and they got to commit to that a little bit more. And in doing that, they're going to shave 4 or 5 minutes off the clock, and they're going to save their defense a little bit more time. They keep nothing wrong with big shot plays. There isn't, but they were very fortunate that Sierra Wright made the play that he did against Luke Altmaier, because otherwise, to go out there and do what you did on that one drive after Illinois ties it and fumble 3 times or whatever, and then put Illinois right back on the field, that was not good game management, in my opinion. And they got away with it because Sierra Wright makes the play, but Nebraska, I think, needs to run it just a little bit more, and they need to run it a little more with Emmett Johnson. I'm not exactly sure why he's not getting more carries.
Sam, are you in the school of thought, because this was obviously brought up yesterday? I know it's always the elephant in the room when Nebraska loses a close game, is what the emotion is like during those moments, mainly in the fourth quarter. And Matt Rule essentially verbalized that yesterday. Are you in the school of thought that they just need that breakthrough, a game like Illinois, but instead the ball goes through the uprights, or Dylan hits Lindenmeyer, that play is made? Are you in the school of thought that all it takes is maybe that one breakthrough moment where you can kind of exercise that demon, so to speak?
That sounds a lot like Scott Frost saying we need a break. And I'm not saying that Scott was wrong.
Yeah.
I think what Matt Rule said yesterday is they have to enjoy competing.
Mm-hmm.
And the byproduct of being competitive and not worrying about the final score is that sooner or later you're going to start winning those games.
Yeah.
I think he's trying to thread a needle rhetorically or otherwise that isn't the easiest to thread. But the reality is what you've got to do is just compete, and you've got to get in games, and you've got to make good decisions, and you just got to be competitive, and those games are going to tilt your way. I watched all those games last year. I've watched all the one-score games. I've been at all the games. And what I can tell you is that in a lot of those contests, the things that Nebraska could have done to win the games are not necessarily about this sort of biorhythmic relationship to winning and losing. I think there's decisions that are made, and there's things that happen early in the game that the dominoes tip late in the game. I watched Nebraska-Iowa last year. Iowa was a better team. I understand they only won 13-10, but they controlled the line of scrimmage in that game. And so, I remember that game really well. I watched the Michigan State-Nebraska game last year, and Nebraska sucked for the first quarter of the game. They weren't very good, and they were mad about how poorly they played. They weren't ready. Yeah, they lost the game 20-17 because Heinrich Harburg had a long touchdown run or whatever it was, but you watch the games and you can tell why they lose. And it's not just because this magical number shows up. And so Nebraska's got to get better at just playing the whole football game.
Mm-hmm.
And against Illinois, again, there were a couple of opportunities in that second half where if you get a stop and then you turn around and make a score out of it, that game's probably out of reach. But Nebraska was not successful in doing that. And then when they have an opportunity to make a play to Lindenmeyer, Viola misses it. And you know what? That's not why they lost. But that happens sometimes. That happens.
Yeah, if they make it 24-10 when they had the opportunity, I think that game's over. I don't think Illinois was going to quit, but I think you're now up 2 scores, and I think the mindset ramps up a little bit more. I want to finish with you on this. So we've watched the overtime session. It might be the worst overtime session in the history of college football. I think Rule might have been kind yesterday, calling it a debacle.
Yeah.
What do you think happened, and is there something to be learned from that coaching staff? If they're going to play in tight games, more than likely one more time this year, they might be playing in overtime.
For sure. What could they have learned? Well,
would you go on offense first if you have Dylan Raiola at your disposal?
People really go after me for saying that. You're really not supposed to. I'm a sort of a heterodox thinker. I think way more teams should go on offense first. And the reason I believe that is because I think coaches think about it from the perspective of, I want to know what I have to achieve by having the second possession. And I go from the perspective of, most of these players, when they know what they have to achieve, struggle to do it because of the pressure. And so I was saying yesterday, like, Vanderbilt's kicker goes out there and he looks like a cross-country runner on Saturday, the poor guy. And he hooked that ball into the lake. I mean, that was not a hard kick. That was a right-footed kicker. He just needs to put it out and kind of gently guide it in. And he put that thing basically in the bleachers. And that's just pressure. That's not, well, Missouri did this and this. No, he just hooked the ball. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what happens is that teams struggle with the pressure of knowing what they have to achieve. And so Nebraska goes out there, it's 31-24. And according to Rule, we didn't really unpack it yesterday, but, according to Rule, it was, they wanted to take a shot, quote unquote, right away. And I'm like, why? Okay. And so then they have a false start and then they want to take the shot again. And then they get a sack and there you go. And then, that was probably the end of it. They've had some disastrous overtimes in the last decade. This was probably the peak of that, and they haven't scored in overtime in the decades, and they haven't even gotten the first down. So it's running the ball might be good. Right. That might be something for people to consider.
This weekend, West Lafayette. Does the score matter?
I think it does matter. Yeah, I think
I know the result does, but the score.
Yeah, I think it does. I think if you want to see Nebraska continue to make progress, getting out of there with a 16-14 win would be concerning for the games that are coming. But yeah, a win is a win, and you'll take a win no matter how you get it. I suspect Purdue will limp into the game defensively, but they're going to try to do some different things this week. Their defensive coordinator basically said that on Monday. And offensively, Purdue's pass game is not what it's supposed to be, but they lost all their receivers to the transfer portal in the offseason. And so they're trying to transition to a completely different group of guys. And I think they're just having a hard time. So, I think Nebraska can win that game by a couple of scores. And if they're able to do that, then I think, they'll probably feel better coming back home. But Rutgers and Indiana are a real team that can beat Nebraska. And so you can't mess around with any of the next 3 games at all.
Yeah. I agree. Sam, as always, appreciate the conversation. Safe travels out to West Lafayette.
All right, take care.
Nebraska, a little over touchdown favorite against the Purdue Boilermakers, who also are 131st in the country in rush defense.
Yeah, they're 300 yards last week, last couple of weeks. Now, it was a good question that was posed, and I think it was actually by Sam, of the difference between what the 2 previous teams did against Purdue, between Notre Dame, having Riley Leonard, Oregon State also having a running quarterback, and not having Dylan necessarily be a runner. But are there things besides that you can attack? Because all of a sudden, it's not like, well, hey, I'm not saying I saw this or anything, but the light bulb might go off for someone. Oh, does that mean Heinrich Haarberg gets some more snaps because he can run the football a little bit? You got to have the quarterback running element. It's not like all of a sudden they're going to change what they do because that is what Purdue is vulnerable with. But this is, again, I think this is a huge week for Marcus Satterfield, for I would even throw Donovan Raiola in there. You got to throw EJ Barthel in there as well on how they devise that running attack, because you got to be able to run. If they are, in my opinion, if they're even 50-50 in this game of run pass, that needs to be slanted more towards run, because you know what Purdue is weak in. I think there's still going to be big plays in the passing game, but if that's a problem this weekend, I mean, I don't know what to tell you because we know they're trying to establish a running back. You even heard Matt Rule say yesterday, they thought even last week, and we talked about the numbers going into the Illinois game, that's a team that doesn't stop the run very well. He thought that was going to be a Dante Dowdell 20, 25 carry type game, got away from it. The passing game they felt worked, and you're going to pivot if you feel you've got something there. But man, I just feel like this game more than any, for not just the fact that that's where Purdue's weak, but also to settle the offense back in, maybe give the defense a little bit more time on the sideline as far as a quick change to be able to establish that against this Purdue team. That's going to be a huge challenge, but also a huge part of the game plan without having a running quarterback.
Satterfield speaks today as well, because it's Coordinator Tuesday. I think the question about Emmett Johnson needs to be asked.
Yep.
Where's Emmett Johnson? If I can't have an offensive line that can move the pile, why don't we try some lateral stuff?
Mm-hmm.
And who's probably best equipped to run lateral out of that running back room? The guy who hasn't played very much, but was your leading rusher last year.
Yeah.
All right, well, quick break. Come back. Brian Christopherson a little bit later. We got more. I'll ask the question to you guys about the reality check. I think you have to just maybe a little Aaron Rodgers here. Relax. It's 4 games. I like the sense of urgency.
Yeah.
It looked familiar, but it is 4 games. Which season's flying by. All right, we're back with more. There's Jimmy. I'm Nick. I'm Gary. It's 1620 The Zone.
Hey, week 3 of the 25K four-quarter pick'em is officially open. Make sure you get your picks in for a piece of the prize of $25,000, and there is a piece of that every week. You can play now at 1620thezone.com. Don't forget to sign up for 1620thezone.com/1620, the email. Big congratulations to Chip Heineman of Omaha. He was our week 2 winner, and he got 9 correct, so very good. We got obviously 10 games to choose from. He went 9-1, and because he was the first one to get 9, he was an email subscriber. So that means when you pick and you get your picks in first, which you get to do on a Monday if you are an email subscriber, you get the tiebreaker. So congratulations to Chip Heineman of Omaha. You are our four-quarter pick'em week 2 winner. And boys, the scoreboard right now amongst us boobs. Nick Grimm off to a rip-roaring start, 16-4.
Yeah, he is the only person that picked Illinois to win.
Yeah, Nick knew something.
What
we
I was
didn't.
feeling today. Charlie Blackman retired.
Oh boy,
does he know who Charlie Blackman
is? He's been a
is?
longtime Rockies fan. So
Charlie Blackman. Look at his picture when he first joined the Rockies to his picture now. That is some evolution of a beard.
He is a Wookiee. I remember last Cubs game, last home game I've been to, saw Charlie Blackman roaming the outfield right in front of us in the bleachers. It was just fun to watch him play. Josh Hodson, 15-5, Happer 14-6, Josh Peterson's 13-7. Bishop and myself are tied at 12-8. Jimmy 11-9.
All right, good stuff.
Wait, so you didn't get everybody.
I missed somebody in there, but
I'm
hey,
6 games back.
Hey, you know what? You're still at 500. You're going to a bowl game right now.
That's true. You're 6 games back in Nick Grimm. That's a 1-week rally right there.
You're going to a bowl game right now. You're still bowling.
So
You're
he
just
could
at
turn into the Royals.
You're at the Pinstripe Bowl right now. You're not necessarily in the college football playoff yet, but hey, we got a long way to go.
Just get me to the Pop-Tart Bowl and my costume.
Exactly. Next hour coming up, we have more on something Sam said about the defense. And is it a bad thing when now we're writing about your buyout if you're a college football coach after 4 weeks of the season? Yes, the answer to that question is. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley at 1620 The Zone.
Halftime brought to you by Omaha Whiskey Fest 2024. It is the largest celebration of whiskey in the region. It's happening this Saturday at the downtown Hilton, and it'll also be home of Big Red Overreaction with Gary and John Schreiner with a little bit of whiskey right there after the Purdue game. Also be listening tomorrow. People. Yeah, hopefully it's a celebratory. Listen tomorrow, chance to win passes for Saturday's Omaha Whiskey Fest.
All right, I got a lot of Ken Deweys out there. If you know, you know. About the weather in West Lafayette. Saturday, 60% chance of rain, 76. The remnants of the hurricane, which is going to give me about 2 to 5 feet of swell in Southwest Florida.
You got winds? Any estimated winds?
Dylan said like 15 miles an hour at the center.
That's breezy. Not even. That's
it's a great day to run the ball.
That's not even breezy.
Put the shutters down today.
Mm.
Well, they're going down tonight. There's somebody there right now.
Yep.
That'd be, can't hit that button and all of a sudden they're locked in.
That's really cool though. You don't have to like physically do that. Boy, we've evolved as a society.
A lot of stuff. Do
you have an app?
A lot of stuff I can do on my phone remotely. But it does look like there will be remnants of the hurricane in West Lafayette. Mm-hmm. So there will be showers. But it looks like they have showers on Friday. So the field will be covered.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
It's still grass, right?
Yes, it is.
Grass and very slow.
But after the Big Ten and
remember the sinkhole in the one end zone?
Well,
a while back?
Remember some serious injuries that Nebraska's encountered there.
Exactly.
Yep.
Ask
DPE. Yep.
And then defensive back along the sidelines.
Yes,
he was a transfer. I'll think of his name. But Nebraska, it seems like, have gone in there and there have been significant injuries.
Yep.
People in the Big Ten that were playing there started to complain. So I think it was a year ago before Walter started. They did a big project, but it's not going to be a great track. It'll be the first time Nebraska's played on grass. Of course, they'll be on the grass practice fields all week, but it could be very wet. So what will that mean? Will Dylan Raiola will be able to throw wet balls?
He was throwing wet balls last week.
That better be the first question coming up on Big Red Overreaction.
Mm-hmm. How does
Dylan like his balls?
Do you like handling the wet ball?
Or do you like the dry ball?
Do you throw a tight spiral at the wet ball?
I'm going to say that it doesn't matter. He likes throwing the football. I also don't believe that this will be, just because we can run on him, let's show off that we can pass. I have faith.
Miles Farmer, they said on the
Miles
stream.
Farmer, that's right.
Yep.
Thank you, Pyro.
Yeah, that was along the sidelines. God, that was to me, that was a worse injury than DPA, and DPA in the back of the end zone was.
Yep. Blew up the leg.
I think Nebraska will be very balanced in this game. It's not like Satterfield goes crazy and all of a sudden Nebraska's throwing 70% of the time.
Right.
Now, they have thrown over 50% of the time back-to-back games, but it's not like they're throwing, like they were like at 52, 50,
they're not air raid.
3%. So Nebraska right now is throwing 48% of the time.
He's no Shane Waldron.
So they're very balanced. I don't think they will overthink the game plan against Purdue because Satterfield has shown, especially the last 2 weeks, we will take what the defense gives us.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if the defense is going to give you a sieve and you're able to run the ball and you can run it forward with Dowdell, they'll just continue to do that on a wet track.
But your question is a valid one too.
About
will we
Dylan
see yes. How does he prefer his balls? But will we see?
How do you prefer yours?
Healthy.
Yeah. I mean,
disease free.
Feeling good.
A football has a disease?
Oh,
it's in COVID.
I prefer a dry, somewhat scuffed ball. Got to be a little scuffed.
Okay. All right. Mm-hmm. Everybody's got their own personal preference.
I mean, we're talking about footballs again, right?
We'll discuss in the next segment about the running back room.
Yeah.
I don't want to bring this up because I noticed in the the Minnesota media, like a Patrick Royce, who is a curmudgeon, who I know from back in my days with the Twins, longtime columnist for the Minnesota Star Tribune. Used to be the Minneapolis Star Tribune, but now they're the Minnesota Star Tribune. And Pat hasn't liked Fleck from the start.
Yeah.
So he's always been on. He has a name for him. But I noticed that in the media yesterday, articles and conversation have started about flex buyout.
22.9.
I don't know, unless you're Billy Napier or Nick Sirianni, who are perennially on the hot seat at their current jobs.
Yeah.
When they start writing about your buyout, I don't know how you come back, but that buyout is healthy.
22.9, right?
I don't know how they're going to raise that. But
Well, they're having problems in Dinkytown Collective, too.
that's why I say that.
Yeah.
Just when you get to that point, see, that's...
Hey, the Vikes are 3-0.
I brought it up yesterday. I mean, North Carolina, Baylor, Florida. There could be some significant, possible middle tier jobs in college football that could open up in the offseason. And, one domino leads to another. When whatever happens in Minnesota, whatever they do to their season, which doesn't seem like there's a lot of wins left on that schedule, if they make a move, what are the type of candidates? Because what is the perception of the job at Minnesota?
Yeah.
Because people now are going to look at the NIL package and your current roster before you move forward.
It's true.
I mean, the Tony White discussion at UCLA, that NIL discussion was way down. I mean, Rule basically said, hey, I wouldn't be comfortable with their NIL package at UCLA. That's not where you need it to be competitive in this conference and in that market. And I think that was yeah, you're right, because look at what we have building at Nebraska. That's the kind of NIL you want if you're going to take a job at a Big Ten school. So, what would be the perception of the Minnesota job if it does open? Because Fleck has elevated that job.
Yeah.
But what has he left it? Does Minnesota say, all right, starting fresh like Indiana? Indiana got rid of Tom Allen. They bring in a guy who's got a bunch of energy, and they say, here you go. We are all in on NIL.
Yeah.
We couldn't get people that cared about Tom Allen, but we bring in a guy from Big Jim, and he's a winner. Here comes a lot of cash. Would they do that at a place like Minnesota? Would they do that at a place like Iowa, which, Kirk's probably got a couple more years before he retires, and the NIL is okay at Iowa, but if you have a change, do they go, here's our opportunity, aggressive, forward-thinking athletic director, now let's open up the NIL pocketbook?
And that's exactly where I would go, is depending on the candidate or the type of candidates that you're trying to attract for the job, I feel like that has to be a huge, huge part, especially if we're talking about Minnesota as an example. I don't know if it's – I think PJ – I'm always curious about this. Is PJ Fleck, when he has been openly discussing the Dinkytown Collective and how, hey, we need more people to donate, and this was last season, I believe, if they've made any progress from that standpoint, but is he also comparing their collective to the Nebraskas? Is he comparing it to the Ohio States, where you've got that readily available, that whenever you need it, it's there? Is it something that's growing? Is it as bad as what PJ Fleck is making it out to be compared to certain schools? Are you realistic? Say like you're more of that. If you're a middle tier Big Ten football operation, do you have a collective that would reflect that, or do you have a collective that's even worse than that?
Well, I think you have to look at it this way. Are people coming to buy players off your roster? If you're in the Big Ten,
that's a good point.
People are coming to buy players off your roster, like Purdue.
Yep,
that's not good.
Yeah, right. And you can't compete with that. Now, I think you bring up the biggest question of it, and that is, even if it's okay and it's something you can get by with, and you can keep a couple of your key players because they have NIL deals, but you need to broaden that. You need to broaden that for your entire roster. Does it take a change of personality? Because I would venture to guess that that's probably some of the reluctances there. You mentioned a reporter, but I'm sure there are donors that are like, yeah, you know what? I'm just not completely on board with him. So, well, I mean, until we get a change of a different voice in there, I don't want to go there.
Let's be honest. You can be PJ Fleck when you're winning.
Yes,
when
exactly.
When you're not winning, that act gets old. And you're like, okay. And especially, it's startling. They can't run the ball and they can't stop the run.
Yep. And those are the things that they've built that program off of him.
Now, Iowa's front seven is pretty damn good, and it's amazing. Death taxes in Iowa having elite linebackers, but they're that's what their bread and butter is at the University of Minnesota, is to be able to run the ball and stop the run. And when those two things are not vibing, you're like, is this whole thing not vibing? Because you're an expanded conference. You're not chasing the West anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're front and center and you're not winning and you're still doing the same thing. I'm like, also, what do we want to be? But speaking of NIL, there has been a change at Nebraska with their weekly video series called Chasing 3.
Mm-hmm.
I think they should change the name of it on the heels of what happened this past week. They should change it to Buying 3. Thank you. I will be here until 10 o'clock.
See what you did there.
I've been thinking about that one all day.
Yeah.
I honestly thought there was like a real change because, last week's was a little more abrupt. Thought maybe that was because they're in a transition. They're doing something bigger.
People were excited to watch the Post Colorado. I think people will be excited to watch the Post Illinois to see how much they show of, okay, now this makes sense. Or will it seem like the last episode where it was okay, but it was kind of rushed? I mean, they have a bar that they have set.
Yeah, the Colorado one was a banger.
Every week, everybody expects to, have chills all throughout my body. They want to feel like Taylor Martinez. But there is a question that came up yesterday about the kicking. Fix the kicking, Ed. Maybe it's not all Ed's fault.
Brett. Fix kicking, Brett.
But hasn't he's been here, right?
Yeah, apparently.
Okay. Well, he has.
Yeah.
But I think why people did not notice, you'd see him on the sidelines and you thought, well, he's just back for a game because he's now retired.
Right. People are probably thinking, well, I'm sure he's still available and people are going to make a call to him if he wants to actually get back on with
But the
team.
discussion about Tristan Alvano, I think they have to make a final decision on Tristan Alvano and stop messing around if he's week for week or we're going to shut him down, because he's not good physically. The stuff that hampered him before the season has not been fixed. And is he ever going to be 100%? And if he's not 100%, I don't think that's fair to the football team or fair to the individual.
Exactly.
And I would think, you know what, erase any, hey, might come back. We don't know. We have to see a couple of weeks from now.
Yeah.
Just invest in John Hull and try and get that at a place where you're comfortable.
Yep.
Say, Tristan, it's okay. We can redshirt you. Because here's one of the things, because I went and watched him early a couple of weeks ago, is the velocity off of his foot is not there.
Oh.
It's not where it was when he was kicking in high school or even times last year. So that injury is definitely hindering him. I think you make a decision of, hey, it's okay. We can redshirt you. Get well, and we'll work on John Hull and say, you're our place kicker. Let's see what we can do when you do stuff well during the week. What do we got to do to fix you on game day? Because we got to be able to say to ourselves, okay, if we get to the 22-yard line and we come up empty, we're going to be fine because a 39-yard field goal is not out of our range.
Yeah.
Nebraska got to the 22-yard line.
Yep.
The 22.
Yep.
So
there should be that little green line. You're way in front of it.
That's what I would do with the kicking situation currently.
I want to do analogy game and do golf nerd for this part of it, because I think about what Tristan Alvano is dealing with. And even if you feel like as you're walking around day to day, even you're moving with more than just a light jog and it's not bothering you, and you feel like, okay, cool, I'm past this. That what you bring up there would concern me more than anything if you don't have as much steam on it, because like a golf swing, whether it's mental or physical, if there's something bothering you physically and you're coming off of that and you feel like you're past it physically, then there's that mental part of it as well, of the mechanics. And then if you still have a little bit of that muscle memory of what it felt like when it was nagging you, you start overcompensating. You do weird things. You're not fluid with your normal motion. And then there's the mental thing of hasn't been a consistent look even when healthy. So then you're putting that aspect onto it before you're lining up and you're thinking about every little thing you need to check off before you put toe to leather and try to make an accurate kick. So even if he were to come back, say in week 6, and you're feeling better, everything is looking okay in practice, maybe he gets a little bit more of that velocity, that oomph back into the force back into the football. Are you 100% that is going to translate into a game as well? When then the mental part of it comes in as well. So to me, those are all realistic concerns that I would side on where you are of, here's a guy that is healthy. Here's a guy that is still needing experience, needing the reps, and needing to be able to work himself into that confidence, both physically and mentally, that he's going to be able to hit the makeable field goals. So you're not asking the kid, hey, we need you to hit the 55 plus. No, we need you to be reliable within 45 yards and closer. If you can do that, you're going to feel good about what you have. So it's that whole struggle coming off of an injury that is actually impacting your leg and your motion and the swing through, all of that stuff. But then it's being able to recover from that mentally too, which would be a major concern to me.
Yep. All right, there's Nick, Jimmy, Brian Christopherson going to join us a little bit later. I'm Gary. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley at 1620 The Zone. All right, welcome back in. Mornings with Sharp and Handley and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone. Brian Christopherson will join us top of the hour, catching up on some emails in the Equitable Bank inbox where they take banking personally. TL3 says Blair also has a pretty good disc golf course.
Oh.
TL3 is a huge disc golfer.
All right.
Buckeye Ross disagreed with Sam, who said he thinks Iowa will take Ohio State to the wire next week.
Yeah,
I said 42-17 Ohio State.
I would probably join Chris on that one. Nothing against Iowa.
then,
I don't think Iowa does anything offensively, so I think it'll still be very convincing. But I don't know if they give them 40. Maybe a solid 34-3 victory.
I was going to say, how are they going to get 17? I agree with the concept, but maybe not the score.
He also chimes in with what a lot of people are thinking in this world today, is that is there a bigger douche in college football than Hugh Freeze? So Hugh Freeze yesterday on Tiger Talk, the official Auburn Sports Network. I love Sam Pittman, and I hope he wins the rest of his games. But I'm telling you, the hard truth is we play Arkansas 9 more times. We'd beat them 9 times, and that's what's hard to take.
Hugh Freeze is lucky to have a job again.
Yeah. Turn that damn jukebox on, Sam.
The hard truth there, Hugh, is that you're bottom 4 in the SEC, and you may win 1 or 2. And also, here is the deal. You are only popular in Auburn, Alabama, because you are preserving the life of Toomer's Corner. Because you haven't won a big game where they've had to go and throw toilet paper on the tree. So the tree is able to survive because you're a bad football coach.
Yeah, and
Hugh Freeze would have been our friend during COVID. Plenty of toilet paper.
Hugh Freeze, I think it's just kind of safe to say the guy's a fraud. He's slimy. He's got former players. I mean, hell, even you got former Auburn players that are not happy that he is representing them. Bo Wallace going to town on him yesterday too. It's just, I love when you got the coaches or even players that represent bottom feeders of their respective conferences starting to puff their chest out, talk a little bit of trash. It's like, what have you done to earn that right now? Again, the fact that you're even coaching college football, that's a good point, that you're coaching college football right now and you haven't done anything with Auburn. Where is that confidence? Where is that bravado coming from? And I'm sorry, all it does is make you even more of a target in your team, more of a target.
John writes in, Gary at 1620thezone.com, way back when I drove a truck. Unless there was a lot of traffic that might get confused, I always honked at the kids. I also saw many interesting things from my elevated view looking down into cars.
I bet. Christy Brinkley?
Would you like to get into details on that?
Oh, hey, I've seen a couple of things on a bus.
Megabus?
Nope, not on a megabus.
I bet people who have driven megabus or have ridden in megabus have probably seen some things.
Yeah, but that's inside the bus.
Yeah.
Not necessarily looking down. We had a couple of years ago, we were coming back from South Dakota and had somebody flash us.
Really?
Yeah, it was a dude.
Always is.
All right, 8:33. BC will join us here in a little bit. It's coordinator day in Lincoln. So Tony White will probably be pretty fired up. Marcus Satterfield will be asked some questions. Again, I don't worry about all of a sudden Air Nebraska showing up in West Lafayette when Purdue can't stop a run. But they will throw the football. I mean, that's the conversation that we have to adjust to, is Nebraska has a quarterback that actually can complete a forward pass and maybe do it at a couple different levels and make me go, holy crap, that guy's really, really good. So you're not going to have a sports car. And even though there might be some snow on the ground, you're like, nope, got to preserve it. We'll bring it back out in the spring when it's warm outside.
That's so Nebraska right there. I'm not talking Nebraska football. That's just our weather.
Get that sports car out.
It's got rear-wheel drive.
You just have to be careful when you're driving it when there's snow on the ground.
Yeah.
But I'm still going to drive it. You know what? I just won't put the top down. I'll keep the top up. But I'm still going to drive the sports car. Okay? Even when it's raining. You know what? They got car washes in Omaha. Take it to a car wash if it gets dirty. But I'm going to take it out, and I'm going to use it when it's raining. Okay? I'm not going to leave it in the garage and all of a sudden go get the Corolla. Okay, but in this case, you know what? If you're using Dylan Raiola in the run game as an example, you want a durable, big pickup truck because that's what Nebraska people are. We're pickup truck people. We're not necessarily sports car people. We're pickup truck people. That's
just like the way we're pickup truck.
We look like pickup truck people, but we drive like we are in a sports car.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't worry about Satterfield. Notre Dame and Oregon State ran for 1 billion yards, and you're going to throw it 65 times. No, I'm not worried about that at all.
Yeah.
But in terms of the running game, and again, said this in our conversation with Sam, and something you brought up is, where's Emmett Johnson? Dowdell is a hammer. But if my offensive line can't get more than 2 yards of a push,
mm-hmm.
and I can live with Gatula coming in at tackle. Mazuka is a difference maker, but I like Mazuka, and then who's next to him, they're serviceable. But if I can't get a 2-yard push, what about getting to the outside?
Yeah.
I know the wide receiver blocking is, like the juggler outside of Crossroads. He may catch one. He may drop them all. He may get all 3 balls going in the air at the same time. But why not try a lateral game with a guy that fits that bill the best, and then maybe also to help that offensive line that maybe opens up the running game? What about the quick game?
Yeah.
You have a quarterback that can do it. I think there's options to scheme your way into better run game if your offensive line isn't eating. But I think this game also is, the stat I will keep track of is runs on first down and success on first down, because Illinois hurt Nebraska running the ball 19 times on first down for over 5.5. Nebraska liked to run the ball on first down, just couldn't do much with it.
Yeah, and what did Illinois do, too? I mean, they got to the edge.
They won the game, Nick.
They did win the game, but they also got to the edge, too. The Emmett Johnson part of this entire equation, it confuses me unless there's something going on in practice, if there's some type of liability in certain situations they don't feel Emmett Johnson is fully equipped to. Because when I look at the rushing numbers right now, Dante Dowdell obviously leading Nebraska with 51 carries, but then it's Ramir Johnson, 26. Emmett Johnson has only carried the ball 13 times this season. 13 times.
Yeah,
and
the last he's been like in mop-up duty. I'm not sure what
I don't. Yeah,
where'd we go?
I exactly. He felt like. And again, give credit to Dante Dowdell for coming on strong there as of late compared to where he was in the spring. But again, unless there's something going on that we don't know or don't see, and this is why I don't know if that's the case too, because he's brought up almost every week, and there's usually something to be said from Marcus Satterfield or even Matt Rule of, we need to get Emmett Johnson more involved. We need to get Emmett Johnson more involved. They like the fact that
he did a lot of talking through us yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. And so is he talking to Sat? I mean, I don't know, because you're right. He brought up, not only did he sort of backtracked a little bit on it, but when he talked about Dante Dowdell, they thought it would be a 20 to 25 carry type game for him. Obviously it was not. But then he talked about, then there were some things working in the passing game. I don't care how we win as long as we win the game, whether we pass 100% of the time or run 100% of the time. I don't really care. That's what you got to say. But again, has talked about having Emmett Johnson more involved. I believe both Matt Rule and Marcus Satterfield said that a week ago too. But when it comes down to it, unless it's what the defense is presenting and you're thinking, hey, this is more the style that Dante Dowdell feeds off of. Okay, then why didn't Dante Dowdell have more carries than he did? So this isn't the run the damn ball take. This is run the guys with the certain dudes in the situations that you feel are going to help you. And I have a tough time believing that Emmett Johnson being more of a complete back and what Nebraska, especially in a game like this, where a team gives up a lot on the ground, that Emmett Johnson, I have a tough time believing, couldn't help you. I just don't understand why he couldn't. Ramir Johnson has been used in more important spots than what Emmett Johnson has. The only guy that you really never hear about anymore is Gabe Ervin. Out of all 4 running backs coming into the season, and there was always conversation about all 4, the only one you don't hear about is Gabe Ervin. And yes, he's not being used, but you still hear about Emmett Johnson, and they talk about Emmett Johnson like he's still a major part of what they're trying to do week in and week out, yet his snaps and his presence on the field would not indicate anything as such. And I don't know why. To me, that's confusing.
The last carry by Emmett Johnson, wasn't that the 36-yard carry against Northern Iowa?
Yes.
Is his last carry?
Yeah, and that was in mop-up duty. That was sorry about that. That wasn't a sound effect.
Sounded like you missed a 3 and just went 2 of 17.
That sounded like the Butker doink there.
John Starks in Game 7 against the Rockets.
I don't. And last week, even somebody, I think in the stream, said, yeah, Emmett Johnson is just a mop-up guy. I feel like his skill set would lead me to believe that he should be used otherwise. Again, I'm not a coach. I'm not seeing this every week, but why do they talk about him constantly, how they need to be involved in the game plan
whatever
more?
The rotation is, something that did not happen in the game on Friday that I think is a weapon is more running back catches.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know whatever Ramirez, I guess there would be 2 catches.
Yeah.
Dowdell only had 2 catches on his 2 targets. I would like to see more running back passes out of the backfield. And I don't know if they sometimes consider Barney a running back because of what they do with him.
And that's fair. That could be. That could be part of it.
But I would like to see him. I mean, I think they'll get back to against like Oregon State. Oregon State was able to run the ball, and they weren't real sneaky about what they were doing with it. But I think jet sweep will be part of this week. Ja'Cory Barney on the jet sweep could be very scary if you're Oregon State. I mean, I think they'll get back to a semblance of a solid, unique running game. But what happens when you step back and you start to play a team that has a defensive line that is stout and you just can't move them? Do you have any variety? Mm-hmm. Do you have to scheme to open up the running backs? Well, but there's also the element. It's not just the running backs and the offensive line, and the offensive line needs to get a better push. There's not a lot of respect for Nebraska's wide receivers right now.
Mm-hmm.
So you can load the box when you are trying to play the guessing game and go, yeah, this is what they're gonna run. So hey, we're playing man coverage. We can put more guys into the box. Yeah, we're gonna stop the run.
Yeah,
that
is a good
wide
point.
receiver. I mean, it all goes hand in hand on Nebraska's running game having success. Whether you be a wide receiver, tight end, and the tight ends have blocked really well, but the tight ends have also had to help 54 on Friday night.
Yep, and
Benhart couldn't win one-on-one battles, so they had to keep a tight end to help out with him. It all goes together. But I think they will have an appropriate script for when to run the football, and I don't see a lopsided 45 passes, 25 runs. I think the 35-33 mixture of 68 plays that they had on Friday night seems to be the right way. And Dowdell carried the ball 20 times in that game.
The creativity that you talk about with the running game too, how much, if you go into that Illinois game, well, okay, there's the injury to Turner Corcoran early on, but also no Micah Mazuka. Do you think that had an impact on how they wanted to run the football, the way they wanted to run the football in Illinois, knowing that, okay, one of our best run blockers we're not going to have in the lineup?
Oh, that they were have to go win one-on-one battles. They didn't win one-on-one battles.
Mm-hmm. I just don't know if at some point they lost confidence in being able to do that because they weren't winning one-on-one battles because you didn't have Micah Mazuka in that game and you weren't getting kind of your road grader, if you will.
I think though I don't think they plan to have Mazuka at all in that game, so they game plan that way.
Yeah, I'm trying not to dwell on one person in this entire equation because I'm not there at practice. I don't know what's going on, but I felt to this point of the season that if there were 2 running backs that would be showcased or featured a lot more, especially given the competition, that Emmett Johnson would be that second guy. And you've seen more Ramir, and I understand Ramir's his strength, especially in pass pro, is something that you can't overlook. But as far as a complete running back and a guy that maybe gives you the most opportunity for some explosive plays in the running game, I still think it's Emmett Johnson.
But it also might be he's more likely to get your quarterback killed if he stays in on pass protection.
Yeah, I mean that's in.
All right, I'm not going to have a 14-year-old kid ruin my sports car.
What about an 8-year-old?
Just go to Target.
It's just this is where it's maddening that I just wish they had one that could do it all. You just have the one running back that's good in blitz pickup, that is good in pass protection, that doesn't necessarily just drive himself into contact, but has good vision.
Well, I just want a running back that when it looks like it's a carry for 2 yards, it becomes 23.
Mm-hmm.
Nebraska doesn't have that guy. On a consistent basis. They can have that guy that does it once or twice, but I can't be in a football game where my running back in a Big Ten football game, you only have one run out of your running backs that is longer than 10 yards.
Yeah.
One. And that was when Dowdell went for 14. Now, Nair went for 13, but we're talking strictly running backs here. 45 past the hour. Again, BC will join us top of the hour on mornings with Sharp and Handley at 1620 The Zone. All right, Brian Christopherson will join us here in about 12 minutes to be exact. I just saw the Omaha Athletic 2024 Hall of Fame class. Dan Ellis is not in the Omaha Athletic Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I would have thought he would have been a long time ago.
One of the first, I would have thought.
Well, okay, they have the Omaha Hockey Hall of Fame. I know he's in that. But yeah, you would think one of the true greats to be between the pipes.
So they have Lindsey Slocum Robertson in softball. Looks like the picture when they were playing at Westgate.
Oh, back in the day.
Zach Miller, country star.
And played a little, ran the option a little bit too.
Mitch Albers.
Nice.
One of the top players in the history of men's basketball.
Brad Papillion.
And then Mike Denny.
That's a great class.
It's an interesting two guys going in there that are from two sports that, of course, have been eliminated.
Yep.
But I will say this because I'm kind of in the middle of all of that. I've heard it from many sides.
Mm-hmm.
Is kudos to the current administration at Omaha for trying to rebuild with football and wrestlers.
Yep.
Now, I think they have made really good strides. And the former wrestlers and former football players should feel the way they do.
Sure.
And no one could say, hey,
absolutely,
no, get over it.
Right.
Okay. Feel that way. But I give credit to the current administration with Adrian. I think they have made strides, and I'll even go back. I think Trev started when they did the Marlon Briscoe statue, and guys like Van Dieb are involved. Guys that are, wanted to run Trev out because of what happened with football.
Yep.
You brought some football guys back in and gave them a voice and a great tribute to Marlon Briscoe, and I thought that was a start.
Mm-hmm.
And then, Adrian takes over as the athletic director, and why, Omaha Athletics needs everybody in the boat to row.
Yeah.
I mean, they can't pick and choose.
Exactly.
And it helps when you hire a basketball coach who is a former football player at Omaha, and he still is in contact with all of his former teammates, including Coach Buddha. And so the football guys have been more involved, and you see them at hockey and men's basketball. And then, of course, wrestling is the tough one. And a lot of it has to do with Mike.
Yeah.
And I think they've done a really good job of, hey, we want to honor you guys. We can't go back and change anything, but we want to honor the legacy and how great wrestling was here. And Mike, we need you. We need you to, what can we do to start this? And you saw last year they had, at the hockey game, they had former wrestlers back. And, I've seen Mike around a little bit more, doesn't live in the area, because I think he's still in St. Louis, right?
Yeah, he is.
But good for Omaha Athletics to at least acknowledge and say, hey, we can't change the past. We don't want you to, we're not saying, hey, and you guys really actually, what I look back at it 15 years ago, you guys made the right decision. But we want you part of the family, and you're right. That's a really good class. So maybe the 2010, 2011 is subsiding a little bit.
So I've talked to Zach about this a few times, and I remember when he was still working out with when he was with Chicago, and he was coming off of between his time in Jacksonville and Tampa Bay, he would still come to Omaha and he would work out. And this was when Trev was the athletic director, and I remember him telling me that he did have a conversation at one point. First of all, to get the permission to be able to work out the facilities, but second of all, to just talk a little bit about the decision behind football. Now, he never told me the specifics of the conversation, but he said it was a good conversation, whatever that meant, because I'm sure there's a lot of football players that maybe felt within those first couple of years that it was eliminated, that they weren't being able to get the answers that they wanted to. And I think you're right. There's never going to be an answer that you're like, oh, now it makes sense to me. If you invested and poured both physically and mentally your heart and soul into that football program as a player, that's a tough pill to swallow. But yes, you're right about the olive branch that they've extended. Now, the other part about wrestling, I was really interested to see the body language last year when they got introduced. Okay, is this going to be thanks for doing this, I suppose. It was cool. Like Mike Denny was elated They're holding up that national championship trophy, and they were doing that as if they just came back from Kearney and they were being honored the way that they should have been. There were a lot of things about getting that information to the wrestling program and who was and was not there at that national championship tournament that I think you'd even ask Trev, he'd say he'd love to have back. But I think that was more the intriguing part is I felt like there was so much bitterness, and I don't blame them, that I was curious even how many years had passed when they came back and they were recognized and they were honored. All those players looked like they were genuinely appreciative, excited to be there. I remember it was a good crowd for the hockey game too. The fans responded because a lot of those fans, especially a lot of the UNO hockey fans, they knew what happened. They were around when that happened. They understood it. None of them are saying, yeah, that was the right thing to do. I mean, some of them might have understood some of the financial challenges that Omaha had, but no one was like, yeah, you need to get rid of wrestling. You need to get rid of football. No, it was awkward. It was very awkward. So I think just seeing them back and ready to kind of be a part of at least a celebration there, it was reciprocated from the fans to the actual wrestlers that were part of it. It was a cool deal.
Again, how is Dan Ellis not in the Omaha Athletic Hall of Fame? I understand the Hockey Hall of Fame. How's not in the Omaha Athletic Hall of Fame? He's one of the OGs of the match.
It's almost like that's an oversight. I bet Zannon's not in there. Zannon should be too. He's probably coming up. Mitch Albert's awesome, by the way. I knew a lot of my Papillion friends growing up. They're all buddies with Mitch Alberts. Knew him not at I wouldn't say we were friends, but he'd know me. I'd know him. And then I remember doing some of the UNO games, basketball. Get that guy on a heater.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He's a good player.
That was fun to watch.
Brian Christopherson. He's a good guy. He'll join us next on 1620 The Zone. All right, Brian Christopherson time from Husker 24/7. Good morning, BC.
Hey, good morning. How you guys?
Good. How are you at 3-0 with the Minnesota Vikings, maybe the best team in the NFL, the 3-week player of the year, 3-week coach of the year?
No structural damage for Sam Darnold?
3-week DC of the year? Life is good for you in the fall.
Yeah, I'm one of those who doesn't want to talk too loudly about it while it's going on. I'm a little cautious from being hurt so much when things seem to be going well and then they suddenly aren't. But yeah, it's been amazing. Sammy's been just winging it like it's like he's been meant to be in Minnesota his whole life with Kevin O'Connell and Brian Flores heard those comments about him and he's like, all right. Let's see what I got for this league, and it's fun.
Do you call him Sammy D now? I mean, is he at that level? Okay,
pretty much.
Yeah, Sammy D.
We've moved from Sam to Sammy at least when we were watching the game. Yeah.
And none of this has anything to do with the Detroit Tigers, right?
The Tigers deserve what they're getting, man. They're playing great ball, and the Twins can't win 1 out of 6. So. You earn what you earn.
You're not supposed to be giving credit where credit's due. Come on, you're supposed to be a bitter Twins fan right now.
Well, our boys have had a lot of injuries. I'll say that. Don't want to make excuses, but I am. And injuries have been a part of it. Tigers have been rolling. The Tigers are going to get in. The question is between the Twins, Royals, and Mariners, who's out. And I think the Twins are going to be one of the teams out, but the Royals are they're right up on that edge of the cliff, looking over too, and just wanting to take a peek.
Hey, one of the things that was announced yesterday were the ratings from Friday night. 4.2 million. At the peak, it was 5 million. Close game, major brand, Big Ten, and a star that people were very interested in watching. Do you think, and that's a big number, and that's Friday nights in Power 4 football with the Big 12 and the Big 10 isn't going to go away when you have numbers like that. Do you think the show that Nebraska put on, that Nebraska in the future will have a choice on if they host a Friday night home game or not?
I don't know if they'll have a choice or not. It feels like they often haven't had that choice in those situations. So certainly the TV people who make those decisions are going to look at it and want Nebraska back in that spot. For whatever issues the Huskers have had with the wins and losses over the last, decade or whatever, it's still one of those helmet teams, right? I mean, I just think people see it. There's people of a certain age who are drawn to it. Of course, there's the Raiola factor where maybe some fans elsewhere who are dialed in on their games didn't see him the first few weeks, maybe even the Nebraska-Colorado game. So they're like, okay, I'm going to see what this noise is all about. For the most part, Dylan delivered there. Dylan's already such an interesting name throughout college football though, because he played a great game. Of course, he has the one throw he'd want back, and immediately, I see this on social media. He's already that guy who's like Mahomes Jr. my butt, from other fans, who are tweeting about him and stuff. He's already got that name recognition where people want to jump on one minor mistake or something like that. It's interesting how quickly that's taken off, but I think for the most part, if people were true to analyzing it, they would say he was pretty impressive for a guy in his fourth college game.
For the comparison standpoint, the lack of use of Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes, is that a similar situation with the tight end use of Thomas Fidone and Dylan Raiola? Is that why this is happening?
Yeah, I don't know. It was good to see Fidone get a couple big ones there. It's just that one throw. If that one throw goes down at the end to Lindenmeyer and it's a touchdown, obviously it's maybe a different result for Nebraska. And the way that performance by Raiola is talked about is something else. And that's where I would tell Husker fans who are feeling a little real down about things or want to get up near the edge. I think about the drive when it was 17-17. And you see a true freshman quarterback in 3 or 4 plays just make, first off, just 2 tremendous throws, the one to Nair and then the one to Fidone. That's the sort of stuff that lifts you up and says, okay, you still got this guy for a while. This can be fun. So I think that brings you back a little bit.
Let's, yesterday was a weird dynamic, and I think it showed you where Rule wants his program to be, that he understands you're going to lose football games, but he would like to get up there and talk about X's and O's. But he was also doing X's and O's and talking about the psychological part of it. On defense, is there X's and O's and psychology that are colliding? Because, man, it was startling to me, BC, to see a bad play on defense and guys on a fairly still veteran defense were standing around looking at each other, looking for answers. And then there's the part of just didn't play well.
Yeah.
Where in your mind, because I think there are definitely things that are fixable. It's not like, oh my gosh, it's a red flag, we're in trouble. But where is this defense right now, 4 games into a season where players in DC said, we're going to be the best defense in college football? And, they were pretty good last year. They were a top 10 defense.
No, I think there was a mental component. I mean, they were getting out schemed and at times out physical too. So that was, a heavy portion of it. But then with that, there's that frustration of exactly what you're talking about, where it's like, man, we're supposed to be a top 10 defense. This ain't supposed to be happening. And so, like, everybody, I think when it goes downhill for a series or two, or it feels like maybe it's slipping from your grip a little bit, everybody maybe gets outside of their job a little bit. And if you listen to the post game, like Marquise Buford stress, like everybody's got to do their 111th. And John Bullock had a comment about doing your job. And so I think that's the part that goes in some of those games where it's not a lack of want to, it's actually the opposite of that. You want it so bad. You want to show that you're this, you want to get this program over the top, and you've put all these months into it and you feel like it's your time. And now it's kind of in danger. And because of that, maybe you get a little bit out of what you're supposed to be doing on a particular play. You try to do a little too much. You punch at a ball when the play's dead and you draw a flag. Just silly. Some of those penalties were just stupid. I mean, the Hartzog face mask was just like, get your money's worth if you're going to get it. So it was that type of game where it did feel like, as Rule said yesterday, guys were doing some uncharacteristic things. And it is kind of an interesting deal because if you think back to last year, when the season started, they lose that game at Minnesota. And I remember in the post-game, Rule, he understands the scar tissue and baggage like the fan base and players have through the previous years. But also at that point, it was sort of like, we're new here, and like we'll work on this, and this is the first time this happened in this era and all that stuff. Well, now there's been a bunch of 1-score losses, in the Rule era too, and so it's kind of like they've got that on their shoulders as well a little bit now. So that's where it's gotten interesting. That narrative has, I think, shifted a little bit from it's just baggage carried by guys who were here in 2019 to like, okay, there's some guys now who have been here a couple years, at least in the program, that have a few of those memories too, that they're going to have to work past. And so not, as he said, not exactly where you want to be getting into the psychology component, but it remains a question until it's answered in a big way by this program.
Well, and with that, BC, talking about the difference between attacking the defender or attacking the ball carrier a year ago and then being able to try to make plays like we saw what John Bullock did in this game, as opposed to trying to, when you engage, you're already trying to knock the football out. That heavy emphasis, not only on the offense taking care of the football, but the defense having to create more turnovers. Can we connect the dots that maybe that has led to some sloppier tackling right now, and that's maybe because that emphasis is so heavy to we got to get the ball out, and that's now leading to some sloppy technique?
I'm sure it could be a slice of it. A little bit of it too, I think, is just when, like, you got to give Illinois credit. They had a great game plan, and just Nebraska was on ice skates a little bit. And when you feel like you don't have a real good grip on what the other side is necessarily going to do in a certain spot, I think that always leads to the tackling looking a lot more shoddy. For the most part, during the Tony White era, I think they've had a really good command of what the other side is going to do and felt like nothing surprised them. And so it's a mixture of all those things. You make a good point, Nick. I mean, I think about there has been such an emphasis on punching the ball out, and maybe there's a little of that going on, and it leads to some guys getting extra yards. So you got to look at all that stuff. And, this is where Tony White earns the big bucks. I mean, he's not the first coordinator at Nebraska that's been really popular, and then had a game or something where it goes off the rails a little bit, and people are, they're going to question you. There's going to be big questions. All of a sudden, everybody does a big turn on a guy. That's just the way it goes when you're in that sort of job. Charlie McBride, treasurer defensive coordinator at Nebraska when I was growing up, took immense criticism some weeks for stuff he did. So that goes with the territory. So this is where you're like, all right, this is why you're in the big bucks. Let's go back and let's review all those little things we're talking about here, and come out with a better product next week, and you're as good as your next game sort of mentality.
Do you think this whole reaction this week is because Friday night looked familiar? Whether you've been here for 2 years and now you're 1-6 in one-score games, or all of us that have been here a little bit longer, the reaction is because it looked familiar. Not Illinois. Credit to Illinois. You're absolutely right, BC, and we've given them credit. But you didn't just line up and get beat. You beat yourself. So that's kind of maybe the overreaction that we've seen since Friday night.
Yeah, and I think people could see it like after the 3-0 start. It's like, okay, you got Illinois in your place. I don't think people were necessarily sleeping that Illinois could be a quality opponent, but it was one of those games where there's kind of this feeling like if Nebraska plays their game, they're going to take care of these guys, and people were kind of mapping out the schedule a little bit. You've got like Herb Street on the air talking about being 7-0, and Joel Klatt and all those guys, and the players aren't immune from that. They're hearing that stuff as well, and so I think that's a big part of it. There was definitely a feeling kind of connected to the Colorado game where the conversation for a week or two had turned to not just being a winning football team, but how can they go now from winning to championship football?
Mm-hmm.
And now I think maybe it got recalibrated back. Like, okay, let's see this just be a good winning football team for a while, and then we'll talk about the other thing. So that's a big part of it. But it's tough when you've got the 400 sellout. You've got it, a national audience, and you feel like this is a game that you can go get. And then the overtime was so familiar. It's like it's incredible. Like the 8 possessions Nebraska's had in 8 straight overtimes, and how they've lost those games. And the fact that on the very first play, Illinois rips off a 21-yard run, that stadium was ready to get into it again and be like, okay, let's solve this problem right here, right now. And then around the left side, the guy goes for 21 yards, and it just popped the balloon immediately. And you felt like it was going to sort of end the way it did at that point.
We've been discussing what we anticipate against Purdue, knowing what they give up on the run. Now, mind you, not a running quarterback that Nebraska has compared to their 2 previous opponents that Purdue's faced. But are you, and you've been at all of these press conferences, both Mondays and Tuesdays, are you surprised lack of Emmett Johnson, or are you understanding of it? Where are you at with that?
I'm understanding of it. I'd love it if he could pop in there some more. When I watched it back, this is not to knock Dante Dowdell, but everybody's got their strengths. Dante's done some good things too. But on the run, on the last drive of regulation, where he was trying to pop outside, the guy made a nice tackle. It was like a 2-yard loss. I was thinking to myself, I wonder, that would have been one where I would have liked to seen what Emmett would have done with that run. If he might have bounced it outside of that guy and taken it to the sideline, got a nice gain. So there's certain plays where I've seen where I've thought like, yeah, that might have been a bigger strength for Emmett. I'd have a bigger problem with it if I felt like the offense was like stuck in the quicksand and wasn't moving it pretty effectively a large part of the time. That said, when you get into this league, I think we saw in the fourth quarter and overtime how much it does matter if the game is tied and you sort of have worn down the other side like Illinois really did to Nebraska kind of, and you've got that threat that Nebraska did not running the ball. And so it's definitely something they're going to have to look under the hood a little bit more at, see like Do we need to establish this a little bit more, even if we are having an effective day through the air and they are giving us, do we still need to bang our head against the wall a couple times, more with the run to get that drumbeat going to build it into the fourth quarter, sort of like Illinois did to them. So I think that's something you have to look at. And if you do that more, I think Emmett's got to be a bigger part of it, because I do think he has some talents that he can help this team.
Hey, as under the umbrella of the defense, there was at least somebody who didn't get rained on, and that was Sierra Wright, who he looked more confident than he ever did at the tail end of his USC career. I mean, he was sticky in coverage. He wasn't afraid to put a hat on a ball. He got involved, and I'm wondering what now it looks like in his usage when we hear if Tommy Hill practiced last night or what their plan is with Tommy Hill this week. So with or without Tommy Hill, what do you think Sierra Wright has played himself into a role at cornerback?
Well, I think if there's no Tommy, he's played himself probably into the starting role, and good for him. I mean, there's good competition there. Jeremiah Charles, Amari Sanders are names we heard a lot about throughout the offseason. Obviously, they're younger players. The Bly Hill injury kind of matters now too, quite a bit. We don't think about it as much, but I mean, he was going to be a starter if he had not had a setback. So, yeah, I think it could be Sierra Wright's show. I thought he was formidable on Friday night, especially when you consider the circumstances of being cast into that spot, in the middle of the game when things weren't just going swimmingly. And obviously had the big play. I was looking back at that play, and I don't know that Bayer made the wrong play on it, because you want to secure the ball. There was it was one of those where he almost could have scooped it and it would have been interesting, like if he had been able to pull it off. But he secured the ball, and obviously a great play by Sarah Wright, and that's gonna build confidence. That's the type of play where you're like, okay, I did that, and now you're off and running a bit. So that should help him this week, and I think they're confident that they can be pretty good at that spot with him. But everybody on that defense has to answer a question, this week and do their part, because right now you got to look at it like a couple of weeks ago, it's kind of said in jest, like we're looking at it. It's Tuesday. We're the worst defense in the country. They're not close to the worst defense in the country, but you do have to take that mindset right now. Like we're middle of the pack right now, guys. You got to have that sort of same desire and everything you had last year, improving everybody your top 10, and you got to get it back this season.
Yeah. BC, enjoy the trip to Indiana. We look forward to the coverage with you and the rest of the gang for Purdue on Saturday. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7. The question becomes, when did Nebraska defensively become old USC?
No.
Well, did you become it for a game?
Right.
USC defense was not real interested in being physical. They had a bunch of dudes, but they would always tackle the ball.
Yeah.
They were going for the home run hit Sports Center play. I never thought that Nebraska would be 4 games into the season and you'd still be searching for the ideal identity of a defense that it's not like everybody left.
No.
Basically everybody coming back.
Exactly,
they just don't have
opposite,
a consistent identity, and I think that's where Rule is thrown off. But I'm also going to buy something I said yesterday. I think this defense overlooked Illinois. I think that defense was smelling it, and they got exposed. I think they've gotten, for 2 straight games, they've gotten into their feelings, and they think they're better than they are, and they know that they got to play well, because it's not like they have elite talent everywhere. They got to play as a 11, and they got smacked. I didn't like that for the 2nd straight week. Somebody drove on them the opening drive, put points on the board.
Yeah, it made it look easy.
Instead of setting the tone. Not necessarily need a 3 and out, but to set the tone and give the ball back to the offense.
Yeah. Okay, so now based on what you're saying, and I don't think you're completely off there by saying that maybe they were feeling themselves a little bit in that game. Would that put you under the mindset that what happened Saturday could actually be a blessing? Or sorry, for what happened Friday could actually be a blessing, especially going up against an offense and a struggling quarterback that you're going up against this week?
Well, I think maybe not just Purdue, but for the rest of the season of hey, maybe you guys aren't as good as you think you are. You got to show up every single Saturday.
Yeah.
I just think they were. I'm basing this off of rules comments of we weren't physical. They expected that ball to be that side of the ball to be physical, and just the word passion, which is attached to this current defense. And Rule said there were things that happened on Friday night he didn't see in practice.
Yeah, that I keep going back
to around, find out.
Yeah, and
don't mess with your food.
And you didn't find out against Northern Iowa.
You know what? They messed with their food, and the team they were playing ate a 5-star meal.
And they could. It was a team that could actually do something about it. Northern Iowa couldn't really do anything about it. And this is where I go back to the Colorado game of not only how they came out and approached that game and how they were out for blood in that game, but I get it. There are going to be certain opponents that you maybe feel it a little bit more, but that standard always has to be there against Northern Iowa, or always has to be there against Illinois and anybody that you play. And I think that's probably the most disappointing thing, because one of the things that I think we all saw about this team last year, not as much in, say, the Iowa game or the Maryland game. For the most part, though, you saw good tackling, swarm tackling early in the season against UTEP and against Colorado. That was the other thing, too. Not only were they just getting all over Shedeur Sanders, but they were all flowing to the football. So those are things that I know this defense possesses. It's the question of what's fixable and what's maybe more of a lingering concern. And the communication part of it, I think, and Sam brought this up earlier too, which I would agree with, is that I think the communication part of it is a little bit more fixable. The tackling, is that just bad habits, or is that pressing because you're trying to emphasize the turnover? Are those things that, as you've been doing and you didn't get hurt maybe against UTEP and maybe against Colorado, are something that you really have to shake off, and it takes a couple of games to do that? That's where I don't know, never having played football on that side of the ball anyway, how easy is it to transition from that technique into, okay, let's play through the ball carrier. Let's play through the receiver. Well, they did last
year. So last year
I thought they did too.
But last year they taught it where the first one would wrap up and then the next person in would try and dislodge it. Now it's just reversed.
You're right.
Crossovers coming up at the top of the hour. Again, 10 o'clock this morning, Omaha Storm Chasers are making a big announcement on the day that they have their playoff game out at Warner Park. Game 1 of a 3-game series, best 2 out of 3
Durango
against Columbus. No, it does not involve tonight's game. I will tell you that.
Mascots of Omaha.
But it's a significant announcement for the franchise. That's coming up at 10. That maybe Mr. MC Connor Happer will have a thought or two on. 1620 The Zone.
Join the VIP Club. Sign up for 1620 The Email. You'll be the first to know all the exciting content that's happening on 1620 The Zone, including sports news, contests like the four-quarter pick'em, promotions, and much more. Sign up today at 1620thezone.com.
So yesterday, the announcement that Nebraska Crossing is rebranding to Big Ten Crossing. When's this partnership supposed to be announced? Whoa! Wow. Jimmy with a little laugh track there.
I didn't think they gave a firm date on when this transition is happening.
Okay. I didn't know if there'd be a press conference because, usually this is a big announcement. And instead of going on a radio show,
it was like a podcast.
You maybe... it was good folks at Grow Omaha that do their Saturday morning show.
Yes.
Good dudes. But that's like a big announcement. Wouldn't you have like a press conference to announce that instead of dropping that on a radio show just casually to announce? And I'm sure like if the Big Ten is going to enter into something like this, don't they want to have – is Tony Petitti going to be out in Gretna to announce this?
You would think he's the commissioner.
I'm asking questions that maybe –
When you say it's going to be the, quote, Disneyland of youth sports, which is what was referred to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Weren't the taxpayers going to pay for this just a little bit ago, and now all of a sudden the Big Ten is going to pay for it? That's a hell of a twist.
Can you imagine if Kevin Warner was still there? Oh, my gosh.
Well, I got a lot of questions here. I just think like the Big Ten controls stuff they're involved with. They just don't willy-nilly drop that out there.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's frowned upon from the Big Ten.
Yeah.
But does this mean like they're going to build a hotel conference center and all of the media days will be at Big Ten Crossing? And then also, will the Big Ten be moving some of their tournaments like basketball to the NHL arena that's being constructed out in Gretna?
Oh, is that what's going on?
22,500 seats.
Or will we have... like all of a sudden a Big Ten conference volleyball tournament and they're going to play in that new USA volleyball facility. These are all questions that I want to know. I want to know if I'm looking at the landscape of Nebraska Crossing, which I'm a big fan of, I like the stores out there, is like on Kirk Ferentz Way, is it going to be clogged up?
Yeah.
Like you can't get through. Okay. Like, where am I going to be able to go with these tributes to the legends of the Big Ten?
Yeah,
between the hours of 4 and 6.
Where is Tommy Frazier Road? Where is Matt Leinart Way?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, where is Reggie Bush Lane?
Rich
Where
Brooks Way.
Where is Kajana Carter?
Good. Yeah. Can we get a Kerry Collins?
Where is Joe Paterno Alley?
Ooh, too soon?
Okay. No, you got the dumpsters will be sitting in there. That's where they put all the garbage.
Well,
these are all questions.
Buffalo Creek would be Heisman
Will
Creek.
I be able to get just Big Ten gear that has the Big Ten logo? Will there be a Big Ten store that's got all 18 teams? Will people be required to stop there if you're affiliated with the Big Ten? Like, will people come?
I mean, they already do. Will they? Are you talking about the entire Big Ten conference outside of just what? Apparently, by the way, this is going to be happening within the month. That was loosely mentioned. There was no hard date, though. Are you asking if this will bring in your Penn State fans? They will want to see Big Ten Crossing. This will bring in your USC fans. They'll want to see Big Ten Crossing.
Is this going to compete against the zoo? People come to Omaha and they go to the zoo. Instead, that Penn State fan that comes to the zoo, instead they're going to be like, nope, I'm going to bypass the zoo. And when I land, I'm going to keep driving. And I'm going to drive on 80. And all of a sudden, out of the horizon will come this gigantic Big Ten logo, and Big Ten Crossing will be right there.
You'll hear the song.
Like what happens with the Omaha and Creighton fans that have been going to Nebraska Crossing.
That's a great point.
They just stood in line for hours for the Lego store the other day.
Yeah.
Now, all of a sudden, if it's Big Ten Crossing, are they allowed to go there?
Yeah.
What happens if you're an SEC fan?
Oh,
do you have to avoid it?
Keep going. Just go straight down to
Let me just go to the zoo again.
Go to the Chuck, watch your team play baseball because you're not welcome at Big Ten Crossing.
I would think to turn Nebraska Crossing into Big Ten Crossing, the Big Ten's got to be paying zillions of dollars. Like, will
think of the water tower.
Rod Yates get more money than Nebraska gets for their TV contract from the Big Ten?
I love the idea of having Big Ten media days.
In
right there
Gretna.
on site. You could do an outdoor venue. You could just have it right there in the courtyard outside of Under Armour. Maryland will like that.
Is the Big Ten Network going to move to Gretna?
There you go.
Are they going to build them
Maybe.
a studio at Big Ten Crossing?
It's more centrally located. It makes sense.
Next to
I mean,
Voodoo
come
Taco
on.
and Old Navy.
Yeah, Dragon Walk is really good. Hey, will the water tower now have the Big Ten logo?
These are all valid questions.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite a change because 4 years ago they wanted to kick us out of the conference, and now they're buying naming rights to our outlet mall.
And yes, in the heart of the new, again.
And where does it stop?
The Disney World of youth sports. It's going to be great.
The Disney World of the Big Ten.
This is going to be awesome. I'm sorry, the Disneyland. I always get the Disney World, Disneylands. I didn't want to misquote anyone there.
Oh,
but
Will Big Ten games be shown? Will they have?
Well, yeah.
They have kind of cool TVs, like when
Yeah,
you're walking
all
between
throughout,
stores.
yeah.
They have the TVs.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Like, will it
campus
be-
seats, Gretna?
Will it be nothing? Yeah. Huh.
Oh, see, here's a good idea.
Voodoo Taco.
you take every
This
place, like
is Runza.
Stuff Your Face from Piscataway. Now they have a location at Big Ten Crossing. You take each one of the iconic campus eats, and now they have a place on Campus Eats Row. Oh.
Is Rutt's Hut close enough to Rutgers that we could get it here?
They got a hot dog store there.
There you go.
And it's always busy. Can't remember what the name of it is. They got a hot dog store at the Nebraska Crossing.
Zingerman's.
I would think this is a big deal. Like, I think when this is announced, 1620 The Zone should be live, and we should carry it live because the Big Ten has never done something like this before.
We are the Big Ten.
It's got to be a big deal. Has anybody contacted the Big Ten office to say, what's going on here? This seems like a gigantic partnership in between Omaha and Lincoln.
And yet this was just casually mentioned in the Grow Omaha podcast. It's like, hey, by the way, guess what's happening?
Because they're humble.
Maybe
they don't need the pomp and circumstance.
Maybe the Big Ten is the Big Ten actually involved.
I don't know how they would be, but how could they? If you're going to use them, you're going to use the conference as a retail, not outlet. We can't call it outlets anymore, but as a retail enterprise. I would think that they would have to be somewhat on board with this. Now, Big Ten Basketball Media Days is next week. Maybe that's when this will be officially announced.
Ooh, Jacob can find out for us.
In Chicago.
Will they have appearances by Big Ten legends? Boomer Esiason from Maryland, Tommy Frazier from Nebraska.
They'll all cut the ribbon.
Lendell White from USC. If they will bring back Pete Carroll, and we will celebrate USC being in the Big Ten when Pete Carroll won a national championship for the Big Ten.
How about Brady Hoke? Let's bring Brady Hoke back. What's he up to?
I mean, the possibilities are endless. Maybe every day there's somebody sitting in the kiosk that is autographing.
Is that
like
Tyrone
in a little
Willingham?
display case.
I mean, the one thing that has kept me up at night is the fact that in Omaha, I can't go to Shields and get a Rutgers T-shirt, but now I will be able to go to Big Ten Crossing and not only get a Rutgers T-shirt, I might see Ray Rice sitting in a kiosk signing autographs.
Hope that's all he's doing. I mean,
there's an alley.
There is. I mentioned the iconic food place, like I think of a Zingerman's in Ann Arbor would be a great addition to the food choices. Then you could have your own fan shops. Every little fan shop, they have their own little bookstore. It's a.
I could buy a Bucky for the puppy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Turtle.
Ohio State will have their own fan shop.
Dubs
here.
the Husky.
UCLA, that team that's located in Los Angeles, they'll have a fan shop that's here too. I mean, possibilities are endless.
They'll have an axe throwing new business that will open up out there. And so you're going to be throwing axes.
You'll be throwing Paul Bunyan?
You'll be throwing the axes at pictures of Paterno, Jim Jordan, Larry Nasser, Jerry Sandusky.
Well, those are really popular now. You have the
could be a pig farm. Name one Floyd.
I know. So when I bring up Smash Park, people are like, "Oh, is that place where you can go in and like sledgehammer everything and stuff?" Well, no, but they have places like that. So you could have a little store where you could take out your aggression on some of the more shameful names of the Big Ten.
This is a great idea.
Call
it the Hall of Shame.
The possibilities are endless. Now, I don't know what Yeti and all the other current retailers think about it. I'm sure Under Armour is really excited to be part of this with Maryland,
and Wisconsin.
Nike with Penn State.
Will they have a petting zoo for the live animals that are mascots in the Big Ten? Will you be able to go and see a badger or a wolverine?
Go give it a kiss.
I really, I'll tell you this one off the air. Our buddy Schmitty had a good idea.
Does it include axe throwing?
No, it has something to do with
Mike Price
It
reference?
has something to do with a tickle monster.
Nope, it's enough about Sandusky.
Again, the possibilities are endless.
And that's the main takeaway here.
Possibilities are endless.
They're all coming to Gretna.
Just this is like
it is. I mean, it just you throw out the Big Ten name and hey, yeah, we're going to rebrand it this. Okay, has Rosemont, Illinois weighed in on this? Have we got a press release out of this? Has Tony Petitti commented on this?
Does he know about it?
And how is the NHL team going to feel like all of a sudden they're playing like, I mean, come on. NCHC fan can't go this. It's Big Ten crossing.
That's true. That's true. And then, are you going to be a pro Big Ten hockey crossing as well? So, you're alienating all the NCHC teams that probably pay you good money. I'm sure the North Dakota fans go up to the outlets all the time. When they
what
come
about
in.
the Athletics? It might not work out in Vegas. They're going to need somewhere to go.
Like, will I be able to get team-issued Crocs?
Do they still have the Sperry store? They had a Sperry store.
I don't know.
Ooh.
They have a Spencer's?
There is a Big Ten bar in Columbus and Lincoln. I feel like they'd be coming to Gretna, too.
Mm-hmm.
You just have one Big Ten bar.
I think they would be upset.
It's a great day for our community. It's a great time.
This was a very confusing announcement-ish. It wasn't even an announcement. This podcast on Grow Omaha of like, oh, yeah, hey, by the way, we're rebranding. Everything's a rebrand.
Yeah. Does that mean like Untuck It, which is a good store? I've been in there and bought shirts before. Will they have like 18, different varieties where you could get an Untuck It, like Nebraska shirt?
Yeah, you would. You'd have 18 of them. Mm-hmm. Speaking of 18, does everybody have their own little collective store too? You can get your 1890 gear. You can get your Dinkytown gear.
How does Nebraska feel about
your Swarm
this?
Gear?
It seems like there's 17 other teams that are moving in on their territory.
Mm-hmm. Especially the investment has made to volleyball.
For God's sake, Nebraska doesn't want Iowa anywhere near Gretna.
Mm-hmm. Good thing Texas isn't in the league.
What happens if that star quarterback from Gretna walks in there and is like, oh, man, the Iowa store looks better than the Nebraska store. The next thing you know, it's Iowa. And all of a sudden, a guy who has donated $5 million to volleyball at Nebraska all of a sudden is screwing over the football program because of his outlet mall and because the Iowa store is nicer than the Nebraska store.
Yep. Yeah.
These are all things that have to be
addressed.
But I think we should be live when this is a big announcement.
I agree. I think we should have shows from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. live at the newly branded Big Ten crossing.
As the mayor waited.
I'm just because when you go by downtown Chicago, on your way to downtown Chicago, and you see Rosemount and you see the Big Ten office, and it's right there alongside the interstate there, and I'm envisioning what we all know is the Nebraska Crossings water tower. Just having the Big Ten logo right there. My goodness.
Have Woody and Bo on the tower.
People will lose their mind. Like this, I didn't realize the Big Ten headquarters is here.
I can't wait for this. There's going to be a big press conference, and they'll announce it's becoming Big Ten Crossing. And the next thing you know is there'll be a tweet from the Big Ten Conference. There will be lawyers.
Yeah. Cease and
desist.
Like
name, image, likeness.
Right.
Yeah. Cease and desist.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all you need to really put out there.
And so okay, well, we won't call it Big Ten Crossing. We'll just have B10.
Yeah, exactly. They'll somehow work around it, which I'm pretty sure is what happened to the Big Ten bar in Columbus and in Lincoln, that they have ways around how they have it spelled and how they branded it.
Could I suggest Big 8 if the Big Ten gives the cease and desist and you can just go all nostalgia?
Here's
for the
what I would
here?
suggest.
That would be cool.
Nebraska Crossing is fine. Okay. Is it added value? Am I going there if it changes to the Big Ten Crossing? No, because I'm going to Nebraska Crossing no matter what.
Right.
I'm not going to go out of my way to go if I've never been there before and go, oh, I got to go see it. I got to go see it. All right. That American Eagle outfitter. Ooh, the models are all, oh my God, that's a cheerleader. Oh, wow.
Well, I just can't wait to take a turn on Archie Griffin Lane and then head down Kerry Collins Avenue to get to Under Armour now.
Have your picture taken with Brett Bielema at Christmas time?
Cross over Heisman Creek to get to the Yeti store. I think that'll be a lot of fun. especially if you're new to Big Ten Crossing, or formerly known as Nebraska Crossing, when you're trying to find, hey, can you tell me the directions to get to the Untucket, or to get to?
Can you show me where campus is?
The Sperry store. Oh yeah, you head down
Well,
Tommy Fraser Way.
All the stores would have to play in with it.
You have to.
Like a store would have to be described in Big Ten terms. Like Bath and Body Works, that'd be the Jerry Sandusky of Big Ten Crossing.
Indeed.
Do they have, if they're not playing a game, do they have Silver Lining on a loop so we can hear the Big Ten song? I think they should. By the way, if anybody's wondering what the hell Silver Lining, that's the Big Ten map song.
That's
the
name
commercial.
of it.
Like, will they have to redo the map because they're going to have to add Big Ten Crossing to the Nebraska one?
Well, they are kind of outdated. Even though we brought the balloons back for the Colorado game, they still release the balloons. Now, instead of releasing the balloons, you'll see the water tower go with the Big Ten logo right next to Memorial Stadium, because it's pretty close on the map as you're making your way over from west to east.
I love this. That's why we moved here.
For the Big Ten Crossing?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. It will attract a lot of people. There's going to be a lot of East Coasters.
I don't even remember Kansas City.
Like diehard Big Ten fans. A lot of people from State College, a lot of people from Ann Arbor, East Lansing are probably going to look to move here because they want to be near Big Ten Crossing.
A lot of people coming to the College World Series that'll be confused. They're like, oh, man, Big Ten. Where are you at?
They play baseball.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone. All right, so Karma on Twitter said you guys fell down the rabbit hole today. Imagine Auntie Anne's Iowa pretzel special, the reason we lose a 4-star recruit. They're giving out samples. Whatever happened to samples? Did COVID kill samples?
I think so. I love
samples in the mall. Now, I know malls are...
I have... Do you go to malls still?
I go to Westroads a little bit.
Yeah, okay. I have not been to a mall in a long time.
You should go on the way home.
Well, actually, I take that back. Stopped into... is Rush Market considered still Oakview Mall? I mean, it's the old Yonkers. So I don't know. I've been in a Rush Market recently. But I guess, it wasn't a mall because I remember on the other... No, it's Rush Market, man. It's like an overstock place where you can get a lot of cheap furniture.
Just to recap here, very thankful to this person that has put everything going on at Nebraska Crossing. USA Volleyball going to relocate their state-of-the-art arena. All roads will be named after Big Ten coaches and teams. A 100,000-seat indoor stadium will be built to host future Big Ten championship games. An NHL team is going to relocate to Nebraska Crossing. Tesla is planning to move their headquarters to Nebraska Crossing. A giant lake will be built next to Nebraska Crossing.
Big lake.
That will flood Ashland and bring in billions of tourist dollars.
Yep.
Sounds like Nebraska Crossing has some big things happening.
Mm-hmm.
This, I mean, it'll coincide with all the stuff at the airport.
Big Ten emoji. Yeah, you're right.
Are we going to be able to handle all these people moving here? I don't know that our infrastructure is built for 3 million people moving to the Omaha area in like the next 3 years.
This is like Houston when they invented AC.
Remember, we've been talking about going to Lincoln on game day, and you get towards Nebraska Crossing, it just comes to a standstill. What will it be like then? My God.
Like how Los Angeles and San Diego formed together to form San Angeles in
Well,
2032.
we'll have to build another expressway.
Freeway.
There'll have to be something else.
8 lanes.
That'll have to structurally change with our interstate system.
We'll get a light rail across Nebraska.
So to
answer
your question, no, we can't. We might need a bullet train.
This is amazing.
A bullet train from Omaha to Lincoln.
I mean, Gretna used to be a small farming community.
Mm-hmm.
Now they've got a super Hy-Vee, and they've got at least a couple of million people are going to be moving close to Nebraska Crossing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. A lot of Big Ten fans.
Hawaiian Bros technically in Gretna, or is that just outside?
It is. It's technically Gretna. Yeah, because it's right by that Walmart off of 370.
Man, my farming friends are going to be in trouble in Gretna. But hold on to your land, gentlemen. You may be able to make a lot of money.
Like Southern California real estate.
You got a really nice golf course there now, too. Well, 2 now, if you count Tiburon.
Will this change if we have a single vote for the Electoral College? All right, the crossover.
Stick to sports, Gary. Stick to sports.
Hey, I was watching national news real quick on this because I've met Mike before.
Mm-hmm.
There was a guy on CNN that was like, "Guy's going to be the mayor of Omaha. I know why he's doing it." I said, "You got us.
Yep.
You got us."
Figured it out.
We
figured it out.
Hey, look at this. We here in Omaha, and we'll bring Lincoln into it. We got Dylan brings us attention. We got Nebraska Crossing that's bringing us attention. Yeah. And we've got all of this debate about
all or nothing
in Omaha, Nebraska.
All or nothing, baby.
I can see why people are moving here now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
I mean, I don't know that we're ready.
We got here just in time.
And you brought up the airport. I mean, that big announcement, which is actually very, very cool. All kidding aside with the restaurant options that will be available. I mean, there are big things happening right now.
Guy from Gretna says, I own 10 acres. Property taxes are out the yazoo. He goes, I can't wait for this.
It'll be a tax break. It'll be a tax break.
All right, crossover's coming up next. Good show, everybody. We'll get our hump game going with y'all tomorrow. Coordinators speak. See what Tony White's mood is. Usually pretty good, direct, takes responsibility, gets right to it.
Yep.
That's coming up a little bit later. We'll be back in tomorrow at 6 for Jimmy, for Nick. I'm Gary. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620.